What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to
What's up, Internet? I'm Aries Van Dam, your shaman of logic, your Gen X genius. And this is my co-host, Ozzy. Good boy. Like me. So, let me turn this down a little more so I can talk to y'all for a bit. I want to reintroduce my open challenge to anyone who wants to debate me on anything they hear in any one of my videos. Hit me up on X and we can debate it. Not in the comment section. That's not where debate happens. Hit me up and we'll get a time. We'll set it all up. I'll debate anybody on the spot for feminism, Zionism, fat acceptance, or marijuana legalization. Anything else, I'm going to need a little prep time. But hit me up on X and we'll sort it all out. I'm delighted to hear from you all. I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit. So I thought my this weekend was going to be completely busted, right? I had it all planned out. I had a 26-year-old who was going to come spend a weekend with me, and she overslept. So I thought my entire weekend was a bust, right? And I was like, it's going to be a whole weekend of just exercising and jerking off. And Sunday, God sent me a blessing. A 19-year-old sorority student, bisexual, wanted to hang out with me. So that's what I'm trying to tell you, right? Sometimes a curse looks like a curse to you, but after you let it sink in for a little bit, it actually turns out to be a blessing. It was a blessing. And I've got to get this video moving because I've got a second date tonight with her. God blesses us all. Anyway, we're just watching the Rachel versus Not So Erudite. I've been putting this one off for a while because Not So Erudite gives me like a real bad headache. But look what I'm doing for you people. I love you so much, I'm gonna take this headache for y'all. So let's get into it and see Not So Erudite versus Rachel Wilson. I have a pretty good idea how this one's gonna go, but I haven't seen any of it yet. So let's check it out. Oh, bring it up.
Check out Roar and Main First Project at the back table there. And with that, we're going to get into our debate. If you haven't already, please do silence your phones so there are no distractions. Also, for our debate, is feminism doing more good or more harm? I'm going to start by introducing Rachel, as she will go first. Rachel Wilson is an author and cultural commentator whose fearless research challenges conventional narratives about feminism, women, and family. Please join me in welcoming Rachel Wilson. And on your left, we are pleased to welcome Kyla, also known as Not So Erudite. She is a thoughtful commentator who brings psychology, social science, and careful analysis to debates about gender and culture. Please join me in welcoming Not So Erudite.
I would say thoughtless.
All right, I am setting the timer for 5 minutes. One last thank you to our sponsor, Yonaguni International Cuisine. Check them out in the description box below. And with that, I have the timer set for you, Rachel. The floor is all yours for 5 minutes.
Kyla said she's okay with 7 minutes. I probably won't need the full 7, but just thought I would let you know that. I'm probably just going to go a pinch over 5.
You got it.
Okay. All right, so is feminism doing more harm than good? I'm going to say, of course, that I think it's doing more harm. Let's take a brief review of what we've gotten so far from feminism and its 6 pillars of propaganda. So feminism inverted the Western social order in roughly 1 century through its 6 primary pillars and a 7th that I'm going to introduce to you today. We've got sexual liberation, abortion, vilification of men, no-fault divorce, demonization of tradition, and either rejection or reinvention of Christianity. Tonight, I'm going to focus on the measurable results of these pillars and introduce the seventh, what I call the she-economy. So if we look at family structure collapse since feminism became the dominant political ethos across the entire West, we've got 40% of children in the United States no longer living with both married biological parents. In 1945, that number was only 10%. Children living without both married biological parents face more than 8 times higher risk of endangerment, standard maltreatment, which is a fancy term for all types of abuse. We have a fatherless epidemic. So roughly 1/3 of American children live without their biological father. That's a 3-fold increase over the historical norm. They account for 90% of homeless kids, 85% of kids with behavioral disorders, 70% of kids in incarceration facilities, and 71% of adolescents in substance abuse treatment centers. Let's look at unmarried births and the welfare trap. In the United States, only about 5% of kids were born to unmarried mothers in 1960. At present, that number is 41%. At the same time, we've gone from $50 billion a year in annual welfare spending in 1950 to now $700 billion per year. That's a 14-fold increase after you adjust for inflation. By 2010, 90% of all cash welfare payments and half of all food assistance went to single mother households. In 1940, only 6% of kids under age 6 had mothers working full-time outside the home. Today, that number is 58%. So you guys have probably heard all of those kinds of stats from me a lot in the past, but let's talk about the she-economy, which is the 7th pillar. And this is really consistent across all Western nations, regardless of what type of systems they have. As soon as feminism is introduced, not only does it transform the social order, it radically transformed Western economies, shifting them from production-based systems that favor long-term stability into debt-driven consumer economies that prioritize short-term gains. Proponents claim that the surge in female labor force participation since the 70s has been good because it expanded the GDP and created 2-income households. That view is incomplete. With the election cycle coming up, affordability, housing shortages, inflation, and labor shortages are going to be talked about a lot, so this is a good moment to discuss this. So who actually builds the economy? When we look at GDP across Western nations, men contribute about 60% of the GDP and women contribute about 40%. But if you look per capita, men generate 36% more GDP per capita than women do. Women own 39% of US businesses now, but they only generate 6.2% of total business revenue. Keep that one up here. It's very important. It basically comes out that about 22% of all women's efforts in the economy are either directly or indirectly subsidized by men. Critical systems remain dominated by men. First world living standards that allow feminism rest on complex physical systems that largely cannot or will not be staffed by women. Things like electrical grid maintenance, water treatment, food production. And a society can survive a temporary shortage of marketing ladies and HR women and kindergarten teachers, but it cannot survive a shortage of power grid technicians or water treatment engineers. Male labor force participation has fallen to a historic low of 69.5%. So that's almost 1 in 3 men are out of the workforce right now. So what's the labor force cost of abortion? One of the main things that feminists care about. They don't care if they have every other right, they care about abortion. It's their main measure of women's freedom. We've had 63 million abortions in the US alone since Roe v. Wade. If those children had survived and joined the workforce today, we would have an additional 45 million workers in the US economy. We wouldn't have to import them from other nations. The cost of abortion is 425 times larger than the earnings that the mothers would have lost by carrying the children to term. So yes, women make a little bit more when they don't have kids, but it's not even close to what you'd get if they had children who grew up and joined the workforce. So women's achievements in the economy are subsidized. Men pay roughly 60 to 75% of income taxes. Progressive tax codes mean the top earners, predominantly male, fund the vast majority of public infrastructure, universities, and social programs. Women get 60% of all higher education dollars because they are the majority of students on campus now. But if you look at fiscal return on that investment, governments get most of their money back from this smaller pool of male laborers, mostly because they make more money and they work more hours. So it's like a structural transfer where public services, education, and grants that enable women to enter and remain in the workforce are funded disproportionately by male tax dollars. So in conclusion, the irony is that feminism has given us broken homes, fatherless children, rising mental illness, demographic decline, and a generation in which nearly a third of Gen Z was aborted before they could ever be born. The welfare state and the she economy that prop up this illusion of strong, independent women will collapse precisely because the same policies that empower women into lower productivity roles have starved the next generation of highly skilled, critical male workers that complex first world systems demand. Feminism has done more harm than good, and the data is not subtle.
Thank you very much for that opening.
Debate over. What I do want y'all to pay attention to here, you see how Rachel went into this like as unselfish as she could be. She didn't just look at what was best for her personally. She looked at what was better for the world and for the country and for everyone else around us. Now, I want you to pay attention whenever Not So Erudite does hers. I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming it's more about what I want, what's good for me. And they're not understanding. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of duty about you. Like, it's not best for me that I go die in war, but I got to go do that if we go to war, right? Maybe it's not better for you to have that child, but it's better for society for you to have that child. And that's what she just never gets past. It's just always whatever's best for me personally. And I want you to keep in mind how selfish that is. I could do the same thing when I get drafted and just be like, hey, it's better for me if I don't go die in this war. But I have duty and women don't.
I've got the timer set for you, Not So Erudite. That was 6 minutes and 45 seconds. The floor is all yours. I'll start it on your first word.
Sure. Feminism, I'm sure you guys won't be surprised by what I say, has done more good than harm. At its core, feminism is the extension of a simple moral principle. Women are full human beings entitled to the same basic dignity, liberty, legal protection, and opportunity as men.
As long as a man enforces it to make it where we let you be that way, right? As long as a man comes along and reduces all your requirements, then you can go be your best woman, even though the people that are getting that service from you are going to pay the price, right? It's better for you though, right?
That principle is not foreign to the American tradition. This nation was built on lofty ideas rooted in Christian theology, in Roman law and Greek philosophy. From those traditions came our understanding of human dignity, citizenship, justice, and government under law. Feminism belongs within that inheritance.
Did those wonderful civilizations she mentioned, did they let women vote? No.
Once a society accepts that people possess inherent worth and that the law should protect their liberty, the question of women's rights becomes unavoidable. That is why feminism is necessary. In a nation committed to freedom, some form of feminism is also inevitable. Women did not begin asking for rights because a university, foundation, or political organization manufactured their dissatisfaction. They encountered the principles their civilization already possessed and asked for those principles to apply to them as well. At the most fundamental, the feminism I am defending is the empowerment of women and the promotion of femininity as something worthy of respect and social value. It does not require women to live in one approved way. It asks that women possess enough security and authority to build lives that reflect their talents, obligations, and convictions. It also insists that motherhood, care, and traditionally feminine contributions should not be dismissed as a lesser form of human achievement. There is an important difference between protection and dependence. A woman whose security rests entirely upon the goodwill of a father or husband may be safe when that man is good. But human beings are fallible, as we all know. Men can be cruel, negligent, absent, or irresponsible. A legal system should not assume that every woman will always have a benevolent man standing between her and disaster. The ability to own property, retain earnings, receive an education, participate in government, and leave a dangerous marriage are not indulgences. They are safeguards against the ordinary failures of human character.
You've been able to always leave an abusive marriage. That's not anything to do with feminism. You could leave before if he beat you. You can leave now if he beat you. That's just nonsense.
Feminism did not invent abuse. It didn't invent abandonment. It did not create unhappy marriages. It gave women greater power to survive.
And feminism didn't correct any of those problems either. Well, they're still there, right? They still have all these problems in the world. You just complain about it more on the internet now.
Survive circumstances that already existed. Nor did feminism suddenly cause women to begin working. Women have always worked. I'm sure Rachel will probably agree with me on this.
Yeah.
Their labor took place on farms, inside family businesses, in factories, and within the home. Poor women rarely had the luxury of avoiding work altogether. The major transformation was not simply that women entered the workforce, it was that more women could prepare for sustained careers. Education became an investment in a future rather than an accomplishment expected to end at marriage. Women could develop the talents that earlier societies often ignored or confined in a very narrow range of uses. Society gained enormously from.
Notice how she didn't even try and assert that they shouldn't be ignored, right? She didn't even try and assert that. Because it's obvious, some things women say should be ignored, right? When you're trying to insert yourself into a male-run business that's been going on for decades, yeah, maybe we shouldn't listen to you because you have no part in this. You have no reason to even be giving us this influence. Like, there's no reason for you to even be talking. You had nothing to do with the business that got built. You just come along after it's already built and up and running and then try to tell us we have to let women be in charge of everything. That's what feminism tells you.
That change. Women became doctors, scientists.
Why else would Bud Light have a campaign for a transgender guy that looks like a guy and put them on their cans? Why would they do that? They didn't do that before women had to be in charge of everything. And then once they come and insert their liberal feminism into everything, it gets so crazy that you can't even tell if a man is a woman anymore.
Lawyers, entrepreneurs, and public officials in far greater numbers. Their intelligence could serve institutions beyond the household without ceasing to benefit their families or communities. None of this means that every feminist has been smart or wise. Some feminists have treated motherhood as a burden rather than a vocation. Others have shown hostility towards marriage, religion, men, or femininity itself. I have no interest in defending every slogan produced under the feminist label. A movement that has existed for generations includes millions of people who will contain foolishness alongside those people. But that is not the question before us. The question is whether the broad historical movement towards women empowerment, legal equality, education, and political participation has produced more good than harm. I believe the answer is clearly yes. The anti-feminist case often gathers every modern social problem and places it at feminism's feet. Divorce, failing fertility, loneliness, and declining happiness are treated as the predictable cost of women's freedom. That explanation is far too simple. The same period contained enormous economic and technological upheaval. Industrialization alone altered the household entirely. Urbanization weakened older community structures. Contraception changed family planning. Housing became more expensive, and the economy shifted away from manufacturing, while globalization and secularization changed the character of public face. Feminism participated in the modern transformation, but it did not independently cause everything that follows it. The fact that two developments occurred at the same time does not establish that one produced the other. We should consider the societies people most consistently choose to live in. The world's most prosperous, desirable nations generally possess strong legal institutions, broad access to education, political liberty, and substantial equality between men and women. It would be foolish to claim that feminism alone created their prosperity. It would be equally foolish to regard the relationship as meaningless. The nations most committed to human development tend to extend freedom and opportunity to women because both commitments arise from the same conviction. Human potential should be cultivated rather than needlessly suppressed.
Cool assertion. No evidence was given here to back that assertion up. You just say it. Just say it.
This is part of the triumphant nature of the human spirit. People want to learn and contribute. They want to build meaningful lives that they and their loved ones.
Do they? Do they? Do people want to learn? I don't really get that from people whenever I encounter them. I feel like they kind of think they know everything already. So I don't really know where this assertion came from. Where did she get this that they just want to learn? I've never met a woman who wanted to learn anything, ever.
Can live in. A society flourishes when it gives that spirit room to breathe. Great nations do not become great by permanently limiting half of their population. They become great by allowing talent and moral agency to serve the common good wherever they are found. Feminism, therefore, belongs with the broader American tradition of civil rights and equal protection. It reflects the belief that inherited hierarchy alone cannot justify domination. Choice matters because virtue requires agency. The ability to act otherwise. Obedience may reflect goodness, but it may also just reflect powerlessness. We cannot know which one it is when coercion has already decided the matter. The feminism I am defending tonight is not the claim that every difference between men and women is discrimination. It is the claim that women should be empowered and that femininity itself should not be treated as inferior, and that being female should not disqualify someone from full participation in society. That principle has corrected real injustices. It has made women less vulnerable to abuse. And it did, I'll jump ahead. I actually want to extend, Rachel,
She asserted that feminism encourages femininity. She just said that. And I want you to look at any feminist you can find today. Go out in the world and find you a feminist to go gaze upon her. See if she looks feminine or see if she looks masculine, right? I'm encountering quite a bit of masculine feminists because they've worked masculine jobs. And now they think they're a man. They can do whatever the man does, except they can't. They can't. And they don't. They do a half-assed job of whatever a man would do. And then they just force you to clap and say, good job, go, girl power. But a female cop is a waste of a fucking salary. I'm just telling you, it is. Because I've been in law enforcement for 15 years, and I'm telling you, you might as well just pay a fucking fire hydrant to sit there because you're going to get just as much law enforcement out of it.
Invitation. I'm curious if you're open to this, and you can say no. I think you're one of the strongest anti-feminist debaters that is working today. I think I'm also probably one of the strongest defenders of feminism, or hope you would grant me the same thing. We're both intelligent women who have considered and examined many of the same questions, and we've reached radically different conclusions, and I want to understand why. I do not want this to become only a contest of statistics and whatnot, and I don't want to get rid of—
Yeah, let's ignore the statistics. She did a good job of that in the opening. Like Rachel brought actual statistics to show you since feminism happened, look how much shittier things have gotten. And she just brushes it all away. Yeah, but we're empowered. We get to be ladies now. We get what we want. That's all that matters. What we want, not what's better for society, not what's better for the world. You just assert, hey, there's no, you can't prove it's causation. It could just be correlation. No, bitch. They'll try the same thing with unaliving children. They'll say that doesn't cause the population collapse. Yes, when you murder half of the children, yes, it will cause the population to collapse because there are less children there. It's just like this postmodern thing they try to do where just reality, let's just ignore reality and just talk about our fifis. That's all this is.
At the debate. However, I'd like to approach the conversation in a feminine way.
We're at time.
Sure.
Well, if you want, I can give you a little, if it's like a sentence.
It's like, sure,
Rachel
sentences.
says yes, go ahead.
By that, I would like to approach it in a feminine way. And by that, I don't mean that I want Rachel and I to sit here and paint.
Means you can't make up your mind? You don't know where you want to go? Is this the feminine way you're going to do it? I don't know what I want to do with this, but you need to tell me the right answer. That's the feminine way.
Paint our nails and talk about our feelings. Don't worry, okay? You'll get your show, okay? However, I mean treating the feelings beneath, the femininity, the things that drive us beneath as meaningful evidence for what we're trying to protect. Because Rachel, you and I both want women to flourish. We genuinely do. And that to me—
As long as you get your way, you want it. You don't want it if you don't get your way, though. Let's be fair about that. You don't care what's best for the world. You care what's best for you.
Seems like the proper place to begin.
Thank you very much for that opening statement. Not so Erudite.
I want you to notice her only addressing of Rachel's statistics were, that doesn't prove correlation. That doesn't prove causation. That could just be correlation. That was her only answer to it. So That's a bad start we're off to.
With that, we'll jump into the open dialogue. We'll let this be as organic as you guys would like. Sure. So we'll let you take it from here. I'll only jump in if it gets really crazy.
Okay, so I'm actually very curious about your relationship to feminism. Like, what got you interested in feminism, and specifically concerns about feminism and its impacts on society? Like, what personally in your life or
Relationship to feminism?
Well, that was a beautiful opening, and I appreciate all the sentiments therein, but none of this addresses the fact that we are about to fall off a demographic cliff that will make all of these beautiful, lofty sentiments mean absolutely nothing. Because as you addressed in your opening, it's not a coincidence that feminism did not exist until the industrial and technological revolutions. You need technology and first world living standards to have this idea that we can just push women into the workforce, everyone can follow their dreams and do what their heart tells them to do, and everybody should have choices and all that sort of thing. But if we don't have enough men to run this first world standard of living, we will be like the only places in the world that are still below replacement birth rates, which would be like Africa, Pakistan. That's where we're going to be if we don't solve the demographic problem. So as much as I would love to talk about how we feel and what got us into this, I'm concerned by the fact that I like air conditioning. I live in Texas, okay? I like power, I like infrastructure, and we won't have that if women don't start producing the next generation of workers who can maintain the standard that allows women to even think about whether they want to have babies or become doctors.
Okay, yeah, if you want to just do the boys' way, we can just do the boys' way.
I don't think it's inherently male to have concerns about the rational, real-world implications of what's happening with feminism.
It's a joke.
Yeah, I don't...
Okay,
And we all laughed at it.
so let's maybe get into the starting point then for you. So at what point, what's the period you think is most prolific for feminism really changing the she economy that you described? Is there a window of time?
Would be the 1970s.
What happened in the 1970s?
I'm glad you asked.
You're so welcome. We're tag teaming this, really.
What happened in the 70s was we had just been through the Vietnam War, which was very unpopular and extremely expensive, and the U.S. Treasury needed more income tax coming in. And this was at the exact same time that the Rockefellers and the Fords created gender studies. They passed Title IX and started handing out college scholarships and funding for women to go to college like candy. And we saw over 20% increase in females in the workforce just in that decade alone. By the 90s, women were on par with men. And what happened at the same time as that is Roe v. Wade and the birth control pill. So women started
and the gold standard getting removed. That one's kind of important too.
What's that?
Well, the gold standard got removed as well.
Sure. I don't.
Well, that's economically super important, right?
It's important, but
What
I
do
don't
you mean
think
it's important? We fundamentally changed our relationship from the gold standard, the petrodollar under Nixon in 1971.
That's
And in what way does that mean we got to let women be in charge of us? Like, that's the point she keeps. What does this little red herring have to do with anything? Who gives a shit about the gold standard? We're talking about feminism.
not why women joined the economy.
But
That's
that
not why
might
women
explain economic
started.
changes, no?
No, it doesn't.
The gold standard.
Because what you're not understanding is it's about the birth rate. It's not that women working is a problem if they were still having 2.2 or 2.5 babies per woman. But when you tell women, hey, spend all your fertile years going to college and starting a career and don't even think about settling down and having kids until you're 31, which is the average age that a woman is having her first child now, that's a serious problem. And we have historical examples of countries who've gone through this. Russia is a great one. They made abortion legal and paid for in state hospitals under Lenin. And it was so bad, like the demographic cliff was so bad for Russia that by the time Stalin came to power, he had to roll all of that back. But because they were communists, they wanted to push women into the workforce. You need workers to have communism. Women needed to be working. And they tried to do women workers and pronatalism at the same time. It did not work. They've never recovered
all
their
economies
birth
need
rate.
workers, right? The most important piece of basically capital investment
Sure.
is human
Which is
human
why
capital.
you could also look at South
Doesn't mean you need female workers, though.
Korea, which is a very capitalist Western-style economy, but has also been taken over by feminism. And they have 0.7 births per woman right now. There's not going to be a South Korea in the next 20 or 30 years if they don't turn it around.
I'm curious, what's the #1 correlate to declining birth rates in a nation?
Women's access to higher education.
Correct. Yes, women's access. It's actually everyone's access to higher education. So I'm curious, would you consider Saudi Arabia particularly feminist?
Not particularly feminist.
Qatar?
No.
Okay, so the Gulf states also have declining birth rates, but feminism isn't causing that. What's happening there?
Because they've started.
Saudi Arabia, famous
Yes.
for feminizing. Qatar, famous for feminizing.
They have started letting women work. They've started allowing things like birth control.
Their birth rate's
It's
been
more
declining
subtle.
for a long time. Actually, it's below replacement now.
Yes, everybody in first world economies where there's urbanization, industrialization, as I explained, that's what enables feminism.
So isn't it urbanization that we're blaming here? Because I feel like there's an
not
interesting
until
thing.
you push women into the workforce and they stop having kids.
Notice how it's never their fault. It's never their fault. It's urbanization. That's what's causing this. Except it's not causing it in other countries where there's urbanization unless there's feminism too.
Again, if women were working as nurses and still having 2.5 kids per woman, I would have no problem with it. But nothing you're addressing tells me what we're going to do about this.
Well, nothing you're pointing
how is
to
your-
says it all falls at the feet of feminism, right? What you're pointing
Why
to
do
right
the women
now,
stop having babies?
because of modernization through increased education. Saudi
Yeah,
Arabia,
because
I'm so sorry. As much as you want to insist Saudi Arabia is feminist, it's certainly not. In fact, do you know why women in Saudi Arabia are pushed into education? It increases their dowry value. That's why. Because it's like
That sounds like an Islam problem.
Well, Victoria, England did this as well, where essentially they view proof of education as good genetic stock, so it makes that wife a more valuable woman. So
Right, but
I don't know.
nobody-
So, not so Erudite's point here is whenever you do something that mimics what feminism does, it's just as bad. So, there we go. So whenever you do something that pretends to be feminism, it's just as bad as feminism. Good point. Good point.
Honest
Birth
about
rate
that.
crisis in Victorian England.
Well, the thing that you have to disentangle here is why is Saudi Arabia having the same problems that you're falling at the feet of feminism? And I'm saying it looks more like modernization might be the problem here. And Saudi Arabia certainly has both modernization, but it certainly doesn't have feminism. So you're going to have to answer
the
the Qatar Gulf
CDC and the
problem.
United Nations both say that the main correlate for declining
Is her argument here that if one country doesn't have feminism and also has bad results, then that means that the entire world is wrong? Like every other country where that is what's going on is wrong? You can have outliers. You can have like things like this. These are statistically incongruous. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
birth rates is sending women to college and sending them to work.
I didn't
And
disagree with that.
As a mother
That's just not
of 5,
feminism.
as a mother
necessarily.
of 5, you cannot have more than maybe one child and work full time because you have to outsource motherhood to daycare, which
Why?
is expensive. What do you mean why?
Why do we have the runaway cost issues in America?
Runaway what?
Cost issues in America.
It's not runaway cost issues. It's the fact
not?
that
It's not affordable right now. It's
you
tougher.
can't make daycare cheap enough for it to.
So because inflation's is high right now, that means feminism isn't at fault for all the other worries we're talking about that happened way before inflation got bad, right? Right? Good point.
Offset the cost of a woman working full time. That's math. How are you
typically
going
you-
to make daycare cheap enough that a woman can have 5 babies and work a full-time job? And why would you want that?
Well,
Why don't we want mothers? Any mothers here love having to send their kids to be raised by someone else all day? Do you
Well,
guys
the question
like that?
again, you can narrativize, but the question I'm actually trying to pose you and get an answer to is what changed in the 70s, as you claim, where women started becoming dual income earners? What changed in families? What was going on? And you're like, the gold standard.
Are you asking
That doesn't
what?
matter.
No, I'm telling you exactly what happened, and this is not me.
Does Kayla think the gold standard means that that's the reason people can't fuck anymore? That people aren't reproducing? That the gold standard had something to do with that? It just made men's dicks not get hard anymore? What is she talking about?
This is the U.S. Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Commerce. All the sources in my slides say that in the 70s, the reason was because we had a huge income tax deficit because of the Vietnam War. At the same time that they had passed birth control legislation making it legal. And not only that, making it free and cheap and socially acceptable. We had Roe v. Wade, now everybody can get an abortion. And at the same time, you start pushing through the culture through a massive propaganda campaign, through things like, remember the Stepford Wives movies, remember the Mary Tyler Moore show? The 70s were just saturated with girl boss empowerment stuff. I was born in 1980 with She-Ra and Madonna and, you know, telling women that motherhood is a ball and chain, that the smart girls go to college and have their own money and they don't need a man. So you've got this cultural propaganda campaign. You've got government money subsidizing college, which is why it's so expensive, by the way. And then you've got birth control and abortion. Okay. So the trend becomes, go get your bag, go get your career. Men are icky and bad. They're going to abuse you. Children are a ball and chain that are going to hold you back. You need to go to work.
Sure.
And that's what women do. They
still haven't gotten an answer.
Notice how Kayla didn't even disregard that. She didn't even like try to disprove any of that. Yes, they do that. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And now she's going to just fast forward past that. Like that doesn't have anything to do with it. Like whenever you're brainwashed in school to be taught that you have to go and be a boss babe and you got to grow up and be a CEO or a fucking entrepreneur or whatever, you don't think that has a little bit to do with why the children are growing up and doing that? Huh, let's just fast forward and see where Kayla wants to go with this.
To the Gulf states, seems like that one is just
still
like
haven't gotten an answer to how you're going to do feminism with no more babies.
Rachel, you have to let me talk for us to have a conversation, right? I'm letting you speak. Give me some space to speak as well, right? So let's talk a little bit about the 70s.
Go ahead, Kyla.
Oh, if you want, Rachel, just monologue. I can just sit here if you want. But if you want the debate and show, I have to participate too. So let's talk a little bit about the 70s. So the 70s is where, what did you say, what percentage increase?
It was something over 20%.
Until 20%, so 70s to what? What was the 20% point? Was it the 90s, 2000s?
No, just in the 70s alone, I believe it went up. No. Female labor force participation went way up in the 70s. It was the biggest jump, and then it continued in the 80s and 90s, and now we have about equal numbers.
So I'm going to show you a beautiful thing that we can do in the world, okay? This is a graph. This is a very, very wonderful graph that makes your point look true. This is your point, okay? So we've got 1975, we've got 39%. It's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, okay? You're going to love it. And by 1990s, we have that almost 20% jump to 58%. And look how steep that looks. Very spooky, spooky graph.
This is where the headache comes from, all of this. This is what gives me the migraines.
Issue with cherry-picked data is that if you zoom out and include all data that's relevant, suddenly spooky lines don't look so spooky. In the 70s, nothing magically happened at all, actually. We had a consistent trend of women since the 1950s going into workplace, particularly married women, because unmarried women always participate in the workforce. Yes. If you actually want a spooky graph with a big jump, the major points when women entered the workforce at astronomical numbers, was a 10% leap in like 4 years, is this graph. It was World War II. This is the only notable moment. If you'll notice on—
Wow. You mean when all the men are going to die in war, the women have to go work? Oh, shit. Poor bitches. Poor bitches. Sorry for y'all. Sorry we had to go die, so you had to go and pick up a wrench for a couple of years. My bad. My bad. Enjoy living.
This graph, it's all the same trend line. So if you're gonna blame everything,
wait a minute.
Hold on, let me finish my thought, then you can attack it. If you're gonna blame everything from 1970s forward, you're gonna have a tough time because the data shows that it's the identical trend since the 1940s. And if you zoom out 200 years, you get this graph, which is a U. So once you actually look at the whole comprehensive story, your narrative falls apart really quickly because nothing remarkable happened in the 1970s except for one thing.
How does a graph turn into a U? Like what? Like it comes down like this and then goes back up? That's weird.
And I'm curious if you know what actually happened in the 1970s.
Well, instead of playing pop quiz Kyla, first of all, here's my
So good.
It's just your typical debate move.
I just want to be clear. If you don't know words,
what do you think happened to this? What do you think about this? What happened here? Okay.
I just want to be very clear before we get to.
I want you to notice how feminism makes these women think they're so much smarter than they are too. We have an example on the stage right now. Watch how smart she thinks she is here.
We were going to take turns.
Well, if we're going to get to the personal insults, I'm just going to quickly respond.
I didn't insult you. I just pointed out that your strategy is to pop quiz your opponent. It's something you do in every debate.
So thank you. The front loading of saying my opponent, Kyla, will just happen to know way more technological information.
I didn't hear anyone say that. I've never heard anyone say Kayla knows anything
I'll
Should
respond to
acknowledge
the
them,
actual
me.
point.
I mean,
know
I'll
you
take
wanted to
it.
have a girl debate, but I would like to stick
No,
to
you said the boy
actual
debate.
argument.
So here we are, baby girl. You want the boy debate? We're
Boy
here.
debate.
Yeah, we're doing it. What happened?
So, what
Yeah.
happened in the 1970s? Again,
What
that's
happened?
so magical.
What happened after World War II?
What happened
To all
after
those
World
women
War
who
II?
went to work,
They
what
s-
did they do?
it
Did
went
they go
down-
back home?
5%.
Yes, they did.
Well-
They-
Now, why did those girls go back home if they were doing such a wonderful job? Why didn't they just keep those guys and then the guys coming back from work and go find other jobs? If they were doing such an amazing job, wouldn't we have just kept them? We could have just kept them girls.
they went back home.
5%, and then look,
Rosie
the
the Riveter.
same line of best fit from before World War II. Because you know what made women go back into workplace? Access to new
Men dying. Men dying. If you're talking about World War II.
technologies that made it easier to go back to the workplace.
Oh, so once we come up and invent a bunch of things to help you, now you can do the job. Like when you just hit a button instead of lifting all that shit. Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad we got to do this for you. We got to come up with the technology, so now you can come take our jobs. Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you.
Of
That's
course.
what made them go
already, you haven't heard me say this the 3 times I've heard it. Industrialization and technology allowed for this. Yes, obviously.
But we wanna
that
throw it
doesn't
at the feet of
address my
feminism.
point. That doesn't address the point of what you're going to do about the demographic cliff we're about to fall off of.
We can
Do
get
you
there.
understand how you can possibly have
This is a
feminism in
crazy
a
pivot.
world? If you're going to keep
Yeah, I thought we weren't going to interrupt, Kayla. What happened?
interrupting me,
I'll write
I'll
it
just
down.
ask for time.
I'll ask my question after
Because
you're done.
if I interrupt you, it's a big problem. But apparently, I can't speak. I need to participate in order for this to be a conversation, Kyla.
Ideally, yeah.
So
When you monologue for 5 minutes straight, yeah. Typically,
Kyla just tried to call out Rachel for a monologue.
I need to be
none
able to
of
respond back.
this, we don't have to spend 40 minutes
Okay.
on what happened in this decade or why women worked. The point
You
of
certainly don't want to.
Again,
Yes.
the point of everything we're
hard for your
talking about
narrative.
here is that, yes, thanks, James. Nothing you're saying addresses the fact that we are about to have a collapse of our first world standard of living. This economy in the West, and it's ubiquitous across all Western nations. In fact, it's so congruent across all of them that it's kind of crazy. Like Statistics Canada has the same GDP numbers that the United States has, that Australia has, that Western Europe has, which is when you push women to go to college and have careers and have their own money and be financially independent, they listen and they do that. And they say, if that's what's expected, I'm not going to have kids. Now, again, we can go back and prove this is what happened in Russia, and it didn't matter how many pro-natalist campaigns they had. Women said, if I got to work full time, I can't have 3 or 4 kids. It doesn't work. You look at South Korea, same thing. They don't have communism. They don't have pronatalism. It's a capitalist Western-style economy, and they can't even reproduce the Korean woman.
Okay.
It's a serious problem that arguing over the gold standard or the 70s or women should have choices. First of all, they've always had choices. Second of all,
just less.
if you don't address this problem, you can kiss feminism goodbye. You won't have it anymore. It won't exist.
There's this really famous, actually, you introduced me to this researcher, Joseph Miller, because you cite him a few times. There's a great conversation that the anti-suffragettes had where they insisted that, oh, by God, if the feminists, if all this happens, the world is going to collapse. People have been insisting that the world is going to collapse in the next 10 years. I mean, they're like climate people as well were insisting that we were going to die in the next 10 years as well. It's just fear-mongering that's not typically based in reality. Now, I know you want to run away from counter information that is disconfirming of your narrative, but you still need to deal with the Gulf states, right? Qatar having declining birth rate. It's not feminism.
Is
it's
that a first world
modernization.
country you want to live in?
No, I want to live here, which has feminism and a booming GDP and one of the best countries on the earth. That's why I'm here.
Well, what are we going to do? Yeah, it's great. It's great right now, but your field of psychology that you got your degree in is so oversaturated. We have, and it's almost all women. It's like
There's
88% women.
Not going to deal with the Gulfs, though.
There's
We're just going to
not-
run from that one.
there's
I'll just come
not
back to it.
enough-
It's fine. I'll write it down.
You have to hear. Go
I'll
ahead.
write it down.
Notice how someone who complains about interruptions sure does a lot of interrupting. Huh. She must have gone to TPUSA to learn.
It's
She
okay,
just
James. I'll write it
steamrolls.
down.
You have to be able to hear- you have-
Adderall.
Good one.
Yep.
It doesn't address It doesn't address the problem that you have, which
Red
is
Bull,
the
though.
paradox of pushing women into work and telling them to be career women like you, and then they don't have children. How are you going to perpetuate the next generation? Do you realize that the complex...
Y'all don't even need to listen to this debate. Y'all don't even need to. You can just see someone who carries himself like Rachel versus an Adderall monster like this creature and see, which one do you think is better for society? To have women who behave like this or behave like this? Which one is better for society? I'm going to vote for Rachel. I'm going to vote for Rachel every time because these Adderall monsters are what's making it impossible to fucking reproduce because no one wants to wake up to this fidgety fucking freak. No one. And she's actually got, she's okay. She's not ugly. Like, if she would keep her mouth shut and stop twitching, she could be like, you know, a 6. Sure.
systems first world economies rely on can only suffer about a 5% loss of skilled male workers. And right now in this country and all across the West, we have all of the Gen X and Boomer men who know how to run complex water sewage treatment centers, keep the power grid up and running. Like, these are highly skilled things. You can't just get someone from Pakistan, put them in a 6-week course.
Oh no, Rachel, if we just get rid of all the men, then these women will just all go learn to do everything that moved society along for 2,000 years. They'll just pick it up like that. You know, because they won't have any men holding them back anymore. So they can just go do all these jobs that men have been doing all this time. That's what'll happen. Sure it will. Sure it will. No, we'll all die. We'll all die.
Or whatever, and make them a power lineman. You can't do that. These men are not replaceable. We have to start having babies, or you're going to have short-term boom. That's what we've got now, at the expense of long-term stability. And it's not fear-mongering, it's math. The World Health Organization.
Can y'all even picture Kayla riding on the back of a garbage truck and picking up all the garbage and throwing it in the... Can y'all picture that? Can you? Because I don't. And those are things that have to get done. And without men, they don't get done. Women would just be sitting in a pile of trash without men, right? Because they couldn't do anything.
Organization, the UN, and Elon Musk talk about it all the time. Like, hey, we're already seeing supply chain shortages. We're already seeing problems in keeping up the infrastructure. Trump ran on the fact that most Western nations, like including the US, have shit infrastructure. We have water lines in LA that are 100 years old, blowing up all over the place. What, 6 or 7 of them in the last 2 weeks?
Okay, we have to do like a timer at this point. I don't even.
So
if you want to.
So interrupt her and don't let her get her points out where she's showing actual, real world, current day issues caused by feminism. By not having enough men there to fix these lines, the water lines are blowing up in California. So just interrupt her so she can't make her point about how feminism is ruining the world right here, present day, with an actual world example.
I want to
the
talk to you,
demographic
and if we
cliff
want to talk
or
to each
none of
other,
this
we have to go
matters.
point by point. Like, if you
We're gonna
monologue
pick it
at
back.
me for 5 minutes straight with multiple points, they're all valid points, and I want to talk to you about all of them.
I just have one question.
I-
How are
I-
you going to solve the birth rate crisis?
Answer mine first. How
There's
do we do
no
that?
future without
How
more
do you
people.
how do you reconcile the fact that you're claiming in the 1970s?
I don't think that's how it works. When someone asks you a question, you answer the question. You don't get to ask another question back to pivot away from the question that was asked to you. That's not how debate is supposed to go.
Feminism infused a bunch of women to the workplace, but we actually see the largest
Okay, I'll
boom
just
of women.
grant
Hold
it.
on, I'm not done.
I'll just
Nicole,
grant
I'm not
it.
done.
It
The
doesn't even
largest
matter
boom.
She's granting it, stupid. Shut up. You've already gotten your point. She said, I'll grant it. Now be quiet.
My argument.
The largest boom of women entering the workforce is right before the golden age of capitalism in America, right? That's what we see when the American currency becomes the gold world reserve currency. So if you want to blame it at the 1970s,
You heard it. You heard it. The gold standard is why men and women aren't fucking anymore. That's why there's no more children. We've all got to die off because of the gold standard. It has nothing to do with feminism that teaches women that men are awful. It has nothing to do with that.
my question to you again is, what actually magically happened? Because based on all of the actual data, nothing transformative happened. Manufacturing was starting to die by the 1950s, right? We have the Triffin dilemma, which is a much better understanding of, if you don't know the word, just ask, just saying.
Yeah, no, we didn't look it up. We didn't go look up a term like you do for every debate, a Griffin trilemma, a fucking, what was the last one? She just brings up these stupid fucking terms from a psychology book and thinks everybody that doesn't know them is just definitely dumber than her because she looked it up before she went on the stage. How dumb are y'all?
Okay, the Triffin dilemma is a huge issue that causes massive trade deficits for America, and it causes an issue where people are always going to want to invest in America because, frankly, we're the best. We're the best at everything. So again,
that makes men and women not be able to fuck anymore. There you go. Cool assertion. Nowhere does this have anything to do with reality, though. The ideology that teaches women that men are awful and you got to go and get your bag and all this other shit directly is what is happening. And that's what we're seeing. And they can't do it. They're going to find something. They're going to find something. It's the fault of, I don't know, think of some the Dust Bowl caused it. The Dust Bowl caused this. That's what's going on. It's not feminism, obviously, but she has nothing to back it up. Nothing. If you have an ideology that teaches women that men are awful, maybe that's why women think men are awful now.
you're going to say it's the 1970s.
I didn't. That's a straw man.
It's not a straw man to say that you said the 1970s is when this
Finish,
took off and the she economy
and I'll
happened.
tell you, no.
That's not a straw
That was
man.
not in any way a pillar or linchpin of my argument.
So it's the 1950s?
No, birth rates have declined since industrialization.
You're
Since
right, like the
it accelerated.
Wait,
It
isn't that like the 1870s?
I have already.
Maybe you mean those 70s.
Okay, when she's done, then I'll talk.
All right. I do want to make sure there's not too much interrupting. So if you
Let's
want
do a
chance-
game. We both talk for 2 minutes at a time. We'll have timers. How about that?
So condescending.
I appreciate that, but
Keyboard
I'm
warriors.
okay with keeping it organic as long as there's not too much interrupting.
Mrs. Turner, is it my turn to
Well,
speak? Can I talk, teacher, please?
Because you're the only person actually being sane right now. If she talks for 7 minutes straight with multiple points,
Just do 2 minutes. It's fine. I have
well, sure.
one
I just want to
Do
let's
2
go
minutes.
point by point.
All right, you guys agree on that? That's progress. All right. You guys
Also,
are both
you're
okay
welcome-
with 2
you're
minutes.
welcome to interrupt
I'm
me, like, when
setting
you
the
need to.
timer. Give me 1 second. And Rachel, you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So the whole you're totally fighting a straw man. You completely made up this idea that my whole argument rests on something fundamental changing in the 70s. I'll just grant everything you said. Agrippa's trilemma, whatever you want.
Good one.
Birth rates have been on the decline since industrialization. I didn't say that no women ever worked before the 70s. I said that's the point where it really accelerated and took off and became mainstream, totally socially acceptable, the norm. Now, if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's the weird, creepy thing.
I can still hear my grandfather cursing about it. If I focus hard enough, I can hear him cursing about it still.
That's when that changed. Doesn't matter. It started in the 1800s with industrialization, urbanization, and women going to work. Yes, that's when the birth rates began to decline. And the sexual liberation stuff, whether it's no-fault divorce, birth control pills, abortion, the overall thing and the only thing that matters in this argument is what are we going to do about demographics? Because it doesn't matter what they're doing in Saudi Arabia. It doesn't matter when the gold standard happened. It doesn't matter when or how women got into the workforce. We are now in a position where all Western nations are in the exact same boat, that when you shove all the women into the workforce and tell them this is what you need to be doing and focusing on, and you need a 2-income household now to survive, no one has babies. Do you think that that's not going to be a problem?
I think that we absolutely
I'm
need to
gonna kick it over to
incentivize.
Kyla. Just to be clear, I'm going to give you full 2 minutes. If you want to use all of it, you can. Otherwise, you can kick it back to her when you want
Here's
to.
what I'll say. Let's just talk. If I start listing off like a bunch of points, just interrupt me. It's pretty simple.
No,
I don't know, guys. I know conversations are hard for like the autism in the room, but that's how they can work.
She just told her to interrupt her, and she's complained 3 times already about Rachel interrupting her. This is what it's like trying to make a woman happy. Because when you do what they tell you to do, they're mad again.
Going back, it was your idea to do the 2 minutes.
It
Let's
was
give this a
sardonic.
try.
Sure, I'll take 2 minutes precisely. Sure, we can do that. It's just gonna be a terrible conversation.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, like, Rachel took 1:40 or so, and then she let you go for your 2 minutes. If you want to use a minute,
I want 10 seconds. Okay? Oh, I know. I'm so fast.
All right, but I'm
It's
going
the
to
Red
kick it
Bull.
over to Rachel to use 2 minutes.
All right,
You
time's
just
up.
said industrialization is when women started going to work. That's false. Industrialization is when women stopped going to work. That's when women workforce participation declined in the 1800s.
What? Okay, so
Hard for your narrative.
it's no. When you talk about women working, nobody thinks that working on your family farm or in your family business with your husband and your dad and everyone, nobody thinks, when we say women going to work, we're talking about dad leaves the house in the morning and goes to his place of business, mom leaves her house in the morning, goes to her place of business, and the kids get sent to daycare or public school. That's new. That's post-industrial. Nobody thinks that agrarian pre-industrial society where you're working the farmstead with your husband is women going to work. They were having 7 babies on average before industrialization per woman. That was fine. Even post-industrialization could have been possibly sustainable had we not introduced sexual liberation, sending women to college, delaying the first birth until you're 31. That is doom. It's demographic doom, and you don't have a way out of it, and you don't have an answer for it, which is why you want to talk about anything else.
Speaking of wanting to talk about anything else, still haven't gotten an answer to the 1970s question, which again,
I granted it.
You can laugh.
I granted it.
It is a hinge point of your narrative.
It's not.
It
I
is.
grant-
Notice how she keeps trying to argue this point that Rachel has already, at least 2 times that I've seen, granted it. Granted. Move on. Go ahead, granted. But she still wants to argue about it because she's trying to pivot away from that question that Rachel just asked her. Can you see it? Can you see it?
I
You're
asked you when.
completely
I
right.
asked you
You're
when.
completely
Hold on,
right about
hold
the
on, one sec.
70s.
I'm
just
hold
going
on,
to
hold
grant
on.
that
All
you
right,
get the
order,
whole
order in the
kink-a-boodle,
crowd.
full point for you. Now,
All
what
right,
are you going to do
folks,
about
I need you to,
demographics?
just so the speakers can be heard, I do need you to keep it quiet in the audience. Is not so erudite. You have 2 minutes if you want to use it.
Sure.
Otherwise, we kick it back to Rachel for 2 minutes.
No, I'll use my 2 minutes.
Okay.
So the Gulf states, again, so the reason why you're acting like this isn't
Still no answer.
relative at all is because it's bad for your narrative, right? For example, Japan. Do you think that Japan was like a highly feminist?
Notice how she refuses to answer Rachel's question that she's already asked a few times now, right? And that's because she has no fucking answer. Her answer is just keep letting me do what I want to do because I'm a girl and I have girl power. Let me be a girl boss. That's her answer, right? It doesn't address anything that's going to go on with the world because we're still going to go to hell, but she's going to be happier because she gets to be a girl boss.
Feminist country?
Yes, it's highly modern and industrial. and
Post
women are-
1970s?
Women are absolutely expected to work in Japan.
Post 1970s specifically is when that feminist infusion really came
I don't
out.
know. I'm
You
not,
got-
su-
gotta
I'm
pick
not
a date
sure.
if your
I'm
whole
not sure
narrative-
exact
If your
timeline
whole-
of Japan.
if we
so
want to
doesn't
stick-
matter to my argument at all.
If we want to stick with 2
Completely
minutes.
If your
irrelevant.
entire
If
narrative,
you're, Kyla, if you're asking her questions, that
she
it's
needs
kind
2
of
minutes per question?
it's kind of pushing back the 2 minute to her. Do you want to go with the 2 minutes?
So if I ask her one question,
You don't understand why when you ask someone a question and talk over them, then that doesn't start, their 2 minutes don't start until you shut the fuck up and let them answer. You don't understand that? She got twitchy and shook about it because she doesn't understand how the rules of civilization just kind of happen. Like the rules of society. I talk, you talk. I talk, you talk. That's kind of how a conversation works. And she can't answer your question when you're still talking, bitch.
now you're going to give her 2 minutes. That's
This
what we want
is
to do?
your idea, Kyla.
Rachel, I don't,
Rachel,
I'm not
Rachel
playing this game.
deferred.
She's now complaining about the ideas she suggested. Don't you want to have one of them work for you? Doesn't that sound delightful? I would love to have an army of them working for me. I'm sure we get a lot of shit done.
To you, and she accepted your idea of 2
I'm not
minute
playing
back
this
and
game with
forth.
you, James. This is silly. Sure, I guess every question.
Silly? Because he won't let you talk while she's trying to answer your question? That's just silly.
I ask you, you get 2 minutes. That seems ridiculous, but if that's how you want to moderate things, go off.
Was it you who asked for 2 minutes?
Complain with the boss. That's what you get when you hire a female worker. Do you see it? Because he's technically her boss. She's the moderator. He's telling her how the rules are going to go, and she can't stop arguing with her own suggestion. The thing she asked her to do. She's arguing with him now because he's doing the thing she asked for. Hire you a few. See how your business goes.
Responses.
Sardonically, yes.
And
Yeah.
Rachel deferred to you and said she's okay with it. So that's what we're doing.
Okay.
If you want
All
to,
right.
if you want, you can say, "Hey, can we do 60-second responses so it's shorter?" But you already brought up the 2 minute response
Okay,
idea.
let's talk about the 1970s.
That's what it's like at work too. They'll make a suggestion, and then if you actually implement their suggestion and it goes wrong, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's not my suggestion's fault. No, that's what this is like. You getting to see in real time why feminism fails, because that's what your worker's going to act like. She'll suggest shit and then complain about it when you do it.
since you're not going to answer the question and your narrative does hinge on it. Your argument is fundamentally this. In the 1970s, in fact, I believe your quote was, in the 1970s, something changed. And it wasn't these various economic factors that we've been seeing for the last 50
Hold on,
years.
we have to give her a chance. Go ahead, Kyla.
I didn't say that here, but I said that on Joe Rogan.
Correct. You also said it here.
All right. Kyla, go ahead, finish your point.
Okay. In the 1970s, which is what you hinged it to in this conversation when I asked you what time feminism started infusing women into the workforce and the she economy began, you did say that. In the 1970s, the thing that you actually think that was magical that happened is called the Quiet Revolution. That's what you're citing. Claudia Golden's work, which, by the way, I chatted to her before this conversation. She loves your book, by the way.
Yeah, well, Rachel talked to Joe Rogan, so she wins.
Claudia Golden discovered and coined the term the Quiet Revolution, which in the late 1970s, there was a revolution, not in an infusion of women in the workplace in the 70s. That was the same since the 40s. It's been a consistent progressive trundle up. What was different is women's relationship to work. Pre the Quiet Revolution, work was temporary, acute, and low-skilled for women because they understood they would have to go home and take care of kids. After the 1970s, they went, I think I could get an education and get long-term career prospects. So that's what's changed in the 1970s, that you're blaming all of the economic downturn, which I agree, there's a lot of economic problems on, which is not feminism. The 1970s.
Cool opinion. I love how you don't back it all up. Do you think that they teach whatever that little theory is? Do you think they teach that in schools? Or do you think that that's just something that, has nothing to do with anything? Like most shit Kyla talks about, has nothing to do with anything. This is all about feminism, and everyone can see it. That little principle she's talking about, it doesn't teach women that men are awful and you should avoid them, and it doesn't teach them any of the shit. It's not causing women to go on the internet and talk about how they don't need no man. That ain't what's doing that, Kyla. I'm positive of it.
70s, the economic problems that started there is connected to the gold standard and the Triffin dilemma.
All right, we can kick it back to Rachel. Both speakers have been told by the audience to shut up. So
there you have it, folks. The Triffin dilemma, or whatever, I can't even pronounce it. That's what's responsible for our population numbers in the shitter. Has nothing to do with all this other shit they've been teaching in every school and every curriculum across the country. Has nothing to do with that. Nothing.
Bob, if you can do me a favor, come to the front, is the next time someone does something like that, we're going to take them out of here, regardless of which speaker they're saying it to.
Oh, I missed it. Must have edited it out.
All right, Rachel, 2 minutes.
So it wouldn't matter to me and to my argument whatsoever if Martians came down in 1910 and told the women to go join the workforce, and that's when it happened or how it happened or why. It doesn't matter to my argument one bit how, when, or why. It just matters that in every nation on planet Earth, when you send all the women into the workforce in huge numbers, they stop having kids. And what happens is what happened to Russia, what happened to China, what happened to South Korea, which is you don't have a future anymore. There is no next generation to continue on. There is no future if you don't show up for it. So if you think you can continue this first world industrialized type of economy that you moved here for because you love the United States, you said we have problems, I agree. I'm not blaming like economic problems on women. I'm saying, well, it's extremely inefficient and it's basically all propped up by men's tax dollars, as I proved in my opening. But it wouldn't matter. Like I could just grant everything you're saying. It wouldn't affect my argument whatsoever because we still have this problem, which is, do you want a future with human beings in it? Or do you want more crumble cookies and more psychologists and more interior designers at the cost of a future generation that can maintain first world infrastructure and complex systems that feminism relies on?
Gotcha.
I want you to answer that question.
So if your theory of everything, of all these problems that you've outlined, and
Pivot.
I agree, a lot of these are legitimate problems. If your theory of everything is to put it at the feet of feminism, as you did in your intro statement, I'm going to say to you, I think things are probably a little more complex than you're giving it granted for. For example, as we've already agreed, although I think you forgot, it's not when you send women into the workforce that birth rates decline, it's education, as we've already talked about. But again, a really big kink in your armor for that narrative is that Gulf states don't have feminism, but they do have declining birth rates. And they don't typically let women broadly participate in the workforce. So what's going on in Gulf states? And the major difference is women getting education. Now, if you want to say that women getting education is feminism, I guess my question would be what your prescription is, that we just don't educate women at all. Because when you want to talk actually about economy, I would totally grant.
Or war. War kind of inhibits breeding too, doesn't it? Like when bombs are dropping on you, it's kind of hard to replenish your numbers whenever that's going on. And a lot of states over there are getting bombed all the time because of that one country that has nukes and does all that shit to them. But there is a lot of bombing going over there. So maybe that has a part, I mean, when you blow a bunch of people up, yeah, the population is going to go down. So that could have something to do with it too.
That men are the power engines of an economy in every single country. And I think that that's awesome. And I think that it's sad that men, I think oftentimes don't get the credit that maybe we deserve for their ingenuity into the GDP engine. But the reality of economics is that what matters most for a country is that you are economically competitive against other global nations. Would you agree that the relative competitiveness is what matters when we're talking about GDP?
Okay, so I'll just grant everything you said there. Simone de Beauvoir famously said in an interview with Betty Friedan that if we allow women the choice, most of them are going to want to stay home and have babies. I'm paraphrasing, which is why she said we can't allow that. We shouldn't allow that. We should tell them that they have to go to work, which is what the CCP did. That's what the Soviets did. That's what a lot of the Asian nations have done. They've said, like China had a one-child policy because they were like, you ladies need to be working, right? What we see every time is that birth rates crash and those governments have to correct course. All of them have had to try, and what happens is it doesn't work. You've created an economy that depends on two incomes, that depends on women working, like you said. If it's the most important thing to be competitive in the global market, and these countries are having all their females work, then we got to do that too. And what I said in my opening is we're trading long-term stability for short-term gains, and it's coming back right now to bite us in the ass. So, yes, it's very complex, but how do we make babies? And what are we educating women for?
I know this one.
When I say education, I have no college degree. I went to cosmetology school, yet here I am with a best-selling book, debating on a world stage, doing all kinds of things, but I did it after raising 5 human beings that are going to go off into the future and contribute. So I'm not now, nor have I ever been making the case that women can't learn, be educated. I'm self-educated. We have the internet now. We have more access to information than ever before in history. What we don't need to do is send women to a university, saddle them with an average of $60,000 in debt, expect them to start a career, and then they don't even start a family until they're 31 and it's almost too late.
Sure.
That's backwards.
So the reason why people invest in early on education is it dominantly comes from, again, capitalism and modernization, because what you do early on in life is going to have the most net returns, right? Anybody who knows anything about investment knows this, right? If you, as a young person, invest in education early and you are guaranteed a higher income, that will have net returns for your whole life longer. The reason why men and women are choosing to get married later is, frankly, because of what we've taught them with the Protestant work ethic and being good stewards of their family and their children. The reality is
They don't have children, you idiot. There are no children because they wait till it's too late and you can't have a child with an old lady. And why would you want to?
super happy that you've been really successful, right? You and Andrew are world level. You've got, I think you have a massive income at this point, right? That, your story isn't everyone's story, and it can't be, because not every.
Does Kayla think everyone's out there just providing for these children that don't exist? Is that what she thinks the problem is? That everybody is just delusional enough that they're going to provide for a family that doesn't exist? I don't think that's the problem.
Everyone can be a best-selling author or a world-traveling debater. The reality is that a lot of women who opt for the postponing education typically never go back to it. They never actually end up achieving. And it's really, really hard, actually, to be 36, no background of education, you haven't worked in years, to try to vie for now career prospects.
Hey, it's really hard to get a 31-year-old uterus to shit a baby out, too. And if we don't do that one, then our population goes under and we're fucking done. And you don't get to have a child. You don't get to reproduce. Your one objective you have in life, you don't get to do it. Because you got to go make some money though, right? That's better than continuing your lineage, right? That's better than having someone to take care of you when you're old. It's better than that too, huh?
That will be sufficient enough to fund you and your child. I agree that the dual income issue poses the biggest issue for families, and it poses a problem for men and for women. And the reason that that's happening isn't feminism at all. It's runaway inflation, right? It is dominantly low, it's called the K-shaped economy, right? You have people who are lower income, they have less ability to negotiate wages because it is actually more profitable for businesses to offshore manufacturing because of the Triffin dilemma. If you can build a $2 toy and you can build it in Vietnam for 50 cents, but in America, because workers are more educated and expect higher income and their dollar is worth more, you unfortunately have to offshore it. It's more effective. That's why manufacturing left. It's not feminism.
Well, a lot of early feminists wrote a lot about how once we achieved full Marxism and communism, because feminism there's a capitalist side. That's what my first book was about. But the second one is about the Marxist communist side, which wanted to destroy the family so that we could have women workers and we could have communally raised children where everybody's loyalty is to the state. And nobody can pass down private property or anything like that. When you send all the women to work early and you tell them they have to go to college and they invest all of their fertile years, those feminists over 100 years ago saw that this was going to be a problem, and they said, in the future, our main obstacle is going to be biology. We're going to have to overcome biology. We're going to have transgenderism. We're going to have artificial wombs. We're going to need some way of dealing with the demographic cliff that's caused by pushing mothers out of motherhood and into the workforce, because you can't do both. Motherhood is not a nights and weekends gig that you do when you have time and you're not at work. It's a full-time job that deserves full-time attention, and there's never going to be a way around that unless you do want everybody to do the Dave Rubin thing and, just buy designer babies, and we'll just outsource wombs, we'll outsource daycare, and by the way, who's doing that? Just other women. So for you and I, if we want to have kids, our privilege of going to work means some other random woman who doesn't care about our child is now going to be raising them for 11 or 12 bucks an hour. What about her? Is that liberating and empowering for her? Is it liberating and empowering for me to spend all day at work and not see my child take their first steps? Or does it make more sense to tell women, hey, look, you can do a lot in this life. There's a lot of living after 40. But, focus on family first. Find your husband, build your family, grow together. Your husband's income will grow as your family grows. And then after that, there is a ton of stuff that you can do. There's all kinds of other options.
Starting to sound like a Marxist socialist, Rachel. So I'll be the first to grant you that the way that America has its orientation towards mothers, particularly within capitalism, and the way that we, for example, don't give them any maternity leave. I think in many states it's 2 weeks here, which is crazy, right? There's very little tax credit incentives to make having a family more affordable for the common man, right? So there are many things that I think the government can and should do to make it so that family rearing is more affordable. The reality, though, that you're prescribing for people of the young girl who's at 19, stays home, gets married, has kids. Number one, the reality is that those marriages are the most likely to dissolve. It's the highest divorce rate group is young people getting married. Second of all, the reality is that that young man, he basically will have to sacrifice, if he even wants to begin to having any amount of income to be able to afford his 5 babies, for example. The reality is that man is going to entirely sacrifice his fatherhood, right? How many men here work more than 40 hours a week already? I believe, yeah. 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 How many of you work more than 50? More than 50 hours. More than 50. You, sir, too? 60. We got an option. 80. Okay. Yeah. Men work.
Who fucking cares? You see them at night. You see them in the evenings. You see them when you can. You have to provide for them. Yes, that's the reality of the world, Kayla. Yeah, you got to work a lot if you want to make a lot and support a big family. Yep. What's your point?
So much. They work so much, and your prescription is that they miss their childhood's first steps. They miss talking to their kids. They miss fatherhood because they're attached to their GDP output to provide for their family because mom shouldn't work and shouldn't work for an economically viable option. That's ridiculous, right? That's actually telling young men, abandon your children for the next 10 years until you've made it. It is.
All right.
She acts like you don't get time off. Like when you work a job, you get time off. You could take a day off and go to the ballpark with them. You can do things with them and still be a dad. My dad did a lot with me and he worked 50 hours a week. He spent too much time with me because I was aggravating to him. But this is just nonsense. This is silliness. Anyone who has kids knows, yeah, it is tough. You got to work 50 hours a week, but you get to see them in the evenings. You get to go do the ball games. You get to do all that shit later. And there are ways to do that. That doesn't mean you're abandoning your child because you're supporting them and giving them money to live off of. Stupid.
I agree. That's very bad. It's very bad for Rachel to do to men.
All right.
I've miscarried twice, but nice try.
Relax.
Didn't stick as well as you hoped it would.
Oh, it's going to be so awful having children that aren't, gangsters because they grew up with no parental guidance, right? It's going to be awful because you get to be there. You get to have a parental figure in the house to watch that child and make sure he's not blowing any shit up. That's just awful. You don't want that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah,
We'll give you 2 minutes.
So-
All right, in the back, keep it down.
Are they going to be exited or just the ones that are heckling the other way? I mean, he said weird stuff about my children. It's kind of weird.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, he made some comment about me not having children.
Bob, can you find him?
Listen, we don't need to make any of this personal, guys.
Yeah.
Totally unnecessary. I
right.
care about
Help
the
us
arguments and
find,
the worldviews.
I
folks,
miscarried, but thank you for your concern.
help us find that person. We're gonna walk him out.
God.
Folks. Sorry about that, Kyla. I honestly, I thought it was like they were agreeing with you. I didn't hear what they said, so
Okay.
I agree with you. Yeah, folks, don't bring up people's families.
She doesn't have a family. He said, you're not going to have any kids. That's what he said. He said, I'm not going to be able to have kids because you're waiting too late. Yeah, that's not personal. That's just everybody who waits too late is not going to have kids. Fucking victims. They just want to be victims so fucking bad.
And again, I want to be easygoing, so if it's like
pussies.
something playful and you agree or something, like I'm not gonna flip out. But if it is malevolent toward one of the speakers, and we're just gonna take you out right now. So
Notice too, if you do hire this Kayla chick, she's going to tone police it. You're not even allowed to say things like that. You got to kick him out. That's the atmosphere your work is going to have, right? You see it right here in front of you. Even in this debate, one of the hecklers can't say you're not going to have kids doing it that way. And now he's got to be ejected. It's going to be like that every day at work. You're going to have to eject your own workers just to make this one queen bee happy. Enjoy hiring them.
who's 2 minute response? Go ahead, Rachel.
So Elizabeth Warren, of all people, wrote a book called The Two-Income Trap. And there's a reason why you could still, post-industrialization and post-technological revolution, have a janitor who could support a family of 6 or something like that on a single income, and now you can't. Yes, there's lots of economic factors, but the biggest one, and the one that's different than every other economic downturn throughout all of history, is that when you push, and this is, proponents of feminism actually say this. They say, oh, it's great when you send all the women and the moms to work, you get this much higher luxury standard of living, you get a higher GDP. But they'll also admit that this does create a reliance on that. So we're building sectors of the she economy around things like education. Women dominate healthcare and education over every other type of job, and then everything else is like cottage industry stuff like Etsy. Like I have an Etsy shop and I have a brownie shop. You guys see like the 5,000 different cake and cookie shops that are in every single mall now. It's like, how many of these do we need? We started offshoring all of our, manufacturing and all of that. This is all bad stuff, but it was made possible. It was made possible by pushing all the women. Now we have all this new labor. Nope. This was what the big industrialists of the Gilded Age did. Get the women into the factories, pay them cheap labor, like you said. This was the beginning. Then you pass the income tax. Now we're taxing 2 people in the household instead of just 1. Then we pass compulsory education systems. Now you have to send your child to public school, and you have to pay the taxes for that too. So the net result of all of these things coming together and creating this new great society is the daddy is your government now. Or the government's your daddy now. Sorry, I switched it. The government's your daddy now. And all those men who just raised their hand who work 50, 60 hours a week, how many of you would prefer your wife to go to work and your children to be raised in daycare so that you can work less?
None.
None.
Of course not.
Exactly. So
there you go.
Again,
they'd prefer to be home with their kids as well. I suspect they would probably prefer to be able to know your kid's first words. You don't want to watch your kid walk.
She didn't even understand that. She just said, how many of y'all would want your children to be raised by someone else? She's making the other point, and Kayla's agreeing with it. She's not even paying attention because the Adderall is just too strong.
But the first time, you don't want to be there? You just want it on film footage because you're at work?
Andrew worked 60, 70-hour weeks for 12 years and still was a very integral part of the kids' lives.
Well, the issue is it's not a critique of dads and saying that you guys are bad dads. I think you guys are probably excellent dads who love your kids. And in fact, you're working to provide for your kids. But this idea that mom stays home and dad works, it is denying you guys the ability to spend time with your children. You are trading it. Do you know what the number one regret of all men in hospice? Do you know what the number one regret is of all men in hospice? Not spending enough time with their kids. It is. And the reason why is because they are told, particularly from this side, that you're not a good enough man if you're not solely providing for your family. Even though the reality is that the corporate elites at the top have made it damn near impossible for you to do so on one income. What is upper middle class right now? I think it's like $93,000 in certain states. That's a lot of money, right? A lot for one person. And the reality is you guys have almost no negotiating wage power, mostly because we're flooding things with like reduction of jobs through.
She almost slipped up there because we're flooding the market with female employees. So you don't have any bargaining rights because, hey, we got all these women here doing a half-assed job. So she almost slipped up and let it out there. But that's why. That's why you have no bargaining power, because they have all kind of women that they could just hire to do your job pitifully.
AI, and also because, again, of this expectation that you are paying the cost of fatherhood, so moms get motherhood. And I don't love either of these trade-offs. What I want is a situation where families can flourish, but it's not feminism. It's not some simple, small thing. It's so much more complicated than that. And if we don't have the real conversations about the people pitting us against each other while they're raking in millions and billions, trillions, I think now, at the top, we're never going to solve this issue. We're just going to keep pointing at men, pointing at women, and being like, it's all each other's fault. It's like,
so yay, let's unite under communism to keep feminism afloat. Fuck you.
It's not. It's like, it's bad antitrust law and a K-shaped economy that's fucking with all of us. I agree with the problems you outline. It's not good. It is a problem, but it's not feminism.
Another assertion. She's done nothing but assert this. That's all she does. Every time it's her turn to talk, all she does is just assert the things she wants you to believe and then pretend like there's something backing that up. Like, what evidence did she give you for any of that? Nothing.
All right. So you might remember in my opening how I said that 1/3 of all American men are not in the workforce. It's a historic low male participation rate. Do you know why? It's not just automation. It's that most of these men have no prospect of marriage or family that they can see. And so they don't see any point, and they're going to stay at home and live in mom's basement and play video games where they can at least pretend to be winning the game of life. Men need challenge They need to be able to go out into the world and overcome and become who they are. That's what being a man is. And when you send all the women to work and tell them, don't get married, that's dangerous, you'll get abused, which by the way is a total myth and a complete lie. All we did with no-fault divorce was shift the pool of abuse from married women to women living with their boyfriend. You are 40% more likely to be abused in a cohabitative relationship than you are if you're a married woman. And what has happened is there's no true solutions. This pie in the sky, like, oh, we'll just have UBI and socialism, and then everyone can stay home with the kids, and everybody can just work part-time. Again, if you value this first world, like, high standard of living, that's not gonna happen without the men that go out there and make it happen. And everything you enjoy about this first world standard of living was built by men who were willing to risk death to get the girl and have the family and go out there and risk something and build great things that took multiple generations to build for their future, for their children. And if you're not going to give them children and you're not going to marry them, they have no incentive to do that. That's where the problem is. And you still haven't addressed it.
She's not going to address it. But I do want to add to what Rachel said there. A lot of guys are incels now because they don't see a path to find a woman. And if they did find them, they don't really see a path to find one that they would want anyway. Because women are so awful and entitled now. They have everything their own way. They don't even act like they're supposed to do shit your way. Everything's supposed to go their way. And it takes a lot to get through to a woman that I'm just not going to do things your way. And eventually, after, they just don't put up with you long enough for that. So it doesn't work. Men have given up on women because they're so awful. Feminism has ruined women for an entire generation of men.
Sure. So, lots to tackle there. 1/3 of men are not in the workplace anymore. Isn't the GDP still going up? So if men are the most important for that and they're the highest output and women are filling in all those spots, why is our GDP still increasing while men's workplace participation is decreasing? Is that maybe because women are able to also be efficient in the workplace potentially and accommodate for some of these things?
We're not doing the 2 minutes anymore. No, there's a lag. There's a lag with birth rate too.
I'll defer to you, Rachel, because
Sure. Well, I'll just answer this one quickly. It's something that a lot of people don't understand about demographics. You can have below replacement rates for quite a long time before you all of a sudden hit, that's why they call it a cliff, because it'll look like, oh, and this is why people say, oh, we're actually overpopulated. There's too many people, and the population is still growing. It's an actual delayed thing where it keeps growing and then all of a sudden it goes bam and it hits like this low. And again, I have graphs on my phone I wasn't able to put on there, but if you look at Russia, South Korea, China, places that have tried this, that's exactly what you see with their birth rate. It'll go up, 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 and then it'll sharp downturn, and then they try to get it back up and it never recovers. So it's like a snowball effect. So yes, GDP is still going up for now. We have maybe 30 to 50 years before we hit serious trouble that we might not recover from for like many generations.
Maybe. I'm sure you don't have a single source for that claim.
I
but that's
just
fine.
said, look at South Korea, look at China, look at Russia.
Well, that would be
They
great if
have
you would
not
tackle the
recovered.
Gulf states. But again, a really big problem with your narrative
Gulf
that you're
states are
pushing here,
behind us,
a big
though.
problem with the narratives that you're pushing here is that the Gulf states are not letting women participate.
Every study that I've ever read on the population agrees with everything Rachel just said. So I don't know what she's talking about. That's backed up quite a bit. I've only read 2 studies, but both of them said what she said.
By and large, they are getting increasingly educated, and yet their birth rate is still declining. So
Yeah, they're
women
like
not
70
taking all
years
these
behind
jobs.
us.
And their GDP is booming and growing because, to be honest,
They're
because
70 years
I do-
behind us.
No,
They'll
it's-
have
I
this
do wanna-
problem
I will
this
tell you
century.
why
I do
it's
wanna-
booming. The reason why it's booming is because rather than allowing women to participate in the workforce at all in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait, what they do is mass migration. They bring in a whole bunch of people, particularly from like Trinidad and Tobago.
That doesn't solve the problem for anyone, dummy. We don't want to have to import a bunch of foreigners to raise our children. That's not the solution we're looking for. Sorry.
Bring in all of these low-wage workers that they treat as second-class citizens to prop up their economy so
That's
that they can
true.
keep doing these things. So if you want to get women out of the workforce, you are going to have to fill it with something else, and it's not just going to be.
There you go. So let's keep feminism alive so we can have, like, you have to learn to speak Mexican to go out of your house. Let's do that. Let's do that. No, let's not do that. Let's fucking just make women do their duty like we make men do. How about we do that? Women's duty is to reproduce. Men's duty is to defend the country. If men are still in the draft, then it's on women to start doing their duty, right? Right? Shouldn't we all be adults? We're all equals, right?
Be just men. The reality is, especially if it's a 50-year problem, you're creating an acute crisis where you will absolutely need to just bring in way more mass migration to replace all of this. But that's just the reality of what you're prescribing for people, right? So again, birth rate going down, I agree. Not great. We should probably try to fix that. But the conversation is about feminism, and you keep insisting it's feminism's fault. But again, the
'Cause it
Gulf
is.
states easily demonstrate that it's not. Nobody looks at Kuwait and Qatar and goes, wow, the bastion of feminism. Nobody thinks that, obviously. So your narrative runs into immediately counter-competing information.
So if population numbers drop in places where they also drop bombs, then I guess that means that, it's not feminism's fault because those bombs kill people over there. Do you see how silly that sounds? Do you see how silly that sounds? Like these other third world countries, yeah, there's a lot of different reasons to cause their population decline. Bombs mostly. But that doesn't mean that feminism's not to blame for our problems, because we do have feminism and we have a collapsing population numbers. So wouldn't that mean that maybe that's just some other issues over there and it doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about? It would for a logical person.
You talked about manufacturing. Again, manufacturing didn't get crushed because of women's push into the workforce. It got crushed by the Triffin dilemma. The US has massive trade deficits. Everyone knows this. So in this situation, when the US dollar is the global currency, everyone wants to bring business here because it's like the hot spot. It's the best place to be, and the American dollar goes far.
This is like debate for kindergartners because she talks like a kindergarten teacher. Like, what is she landing a plane? What is going on here?
Manufacturing gets crushed because American workers want higher wages because our cost of living is higher because everyone's bringing their business here and everyone's infusing cash all the time. You have
I was on Adderall for a while. It never made me do that.
to deal with the real economic issues that are causing the issue, not just blame feminism.
Okay.
Rachel, you got 2 minutes as well?
I'll try this one more time. I'm not blaming every economic problem on feminism. I'm blaming one economic problem, the only one that matters, which is demographics.
Gulf states.
There's a lot of different, they still
not
have
feminism.
above replacement because all the women
They
aren't
don't.
working.
They don't. They are under replaced.
I do the same way that
They are
Rachel didn't interrupt you in the
behind
last
us.
one. I want to give her the same.
The whole world is going this way. So all the countries
Do y'all remember when she complained about the interrupting too? Just keep it in mind. Keep it in mind.
that are still above replacement, which is only a handful, are trending down. And when those people, so you said immigrants, you're right. Saudi Arabia imports their entire workforce. We're trying to do that in the West. And what happens? Number one, all the places we're trying to bring immigrants from are now getting below replacement as well. So you're running out of other people to bring over. But two, when you bring those people over from those cultures where there's no feminism into the West, within one generation, their birth rate drops to as low as the native population in the West. So you bring someone over from Pakistan where the birth rate is still like one of the highest in the world. You bring them to the UK where there's feminism. You send their daughters to college and send their daughters to the workforce. They also only have 1.5 children per woman. So no, my claim, you're strawmanning me again. My claim is not every economic problem is caused by feminism. Of course not. But the one that is caused by feminism will be the only one that matters, because if there's no people, there's no future. And you still haven't told me how you're going to combat that. How are you going to have your first world feminist
That's the 15th time she's asked for this question to be answered. And she has pivoted every single time. Let's see what she does.
utopia where the men and the women both work part-time, everyone gets to stay home? However we're going to work that, everybody gets to follow their dreams and do what they want.
I think that's called a straw man.
How do we get to do that with below replacement birth rates?
Yeah, we need
if
to solve
women
birth
are
rate.
Hold on one
working, they're
second.
not going to have babies, and that's the only part of my argument that matters.
Sure, yeah, I've tackled, so I can
Taking it
repeat
back
for
over
you.
to Kyla for 2 minutes.
I've responded to this multiple times, which again, declining birth rate is not feminism. It is modernization. This is why Saudi Arabia
She asked you, how do you fix it? Notice, she answered a different question here. She's still answering it wrong, but the question was, how do we fix this?
as it modernizes, has a decline, which, by the way, is below replacement. Saudi Arabia's is like 1.7 right now. So no, they're not replacing themselves. Birth rate decline is because as you modernize and give people more education, they choose to postpone marriage and they have less children as a result of it. It's really that simple, but that's not feminism. That is actually education, that's capitalism, and it's kind of the Protestant work ethic. Because if there's any system that tells you delay gratification, hustle and work hard, make sure you're a steward of the future, it's probably something like a capitalist system with economic incentive to grow, 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 and a Protestant work ethic that says work, work, work. That's what you're actually contending with here. Does feminism have impacts on certain things? Yeah, I think it's made women particularly significantly more choosy in like their partners, for example. But if you look at these bad college women, for example, they're the group getting married more than anyone else since 2010. They are the highest population to get married. Their marriages last longer. They have a divorce rate that's way lower than everyone else, by the way. Their children are more successful. Their children contribute to the economy significantly more. I'd love to get those ladies having children more too. Let's invest in more technologies to kind of help them increase their window of IVF, but I'm sure you're opposed to that, right? There's all sorts. Let's get tax credits. Yeah, let's laugh at it. You guys want to solve the birth rate problem unless you actually have solutions that are about modernization, because your actual enemy here today isn't feminism, it's modernization, and we're never going back to monkey. So you may as well give up on that one.
So you're saying you don't have a solution? Is that what your answer is? Because the question was, well, how do we fix this? That was the question Rachel's asked 15 times now. And she keeps pivoting to this whatever that was. Are you saying you don't have a solution? Because you could have just said that.
Okay, so first of all, you said it's a capitalism problem along with a modernization problem. That doesn't explain how communist China and communist Russia had this happen to them first before any capitalist nation. Because in communism, it was, yeah, have the babies, but mainly go to work because we need to fill the factories and everybody needs to be a proletariat worker, right?
Well, hold on, Rachel. Did they go to the gold standard? Because that could be the whole thing here. Like, Kayla's got this ingenious thing that the gold standard makes people not fuck.
They experienced this before capitalist countries did, and to the biggest degree. So it can't just be capitalism. Second of all, telling women to wait to have children because IVF will be there, people who say that haven't looked into IVF and how abysmal the failure rate is. First of all, it's massively
10%.
expensive, and even if you completely subsidized it like they do in Israel, it's horrific to put women through. Have you ever had to inject yourself with a crap ton of hormones and go through all the things that you have to go through for IVF? It's miserable.
Yes.
And if you wait until you're 40, it has a less than 10% success rate. About the same as conceiving naturally. It doesn't work. So telling women to wait for IVF is cruel and unusual punishment.
And it's a really bad solution here, isn't it? IVF, you think IVF is the solution? We're going to have 10% birth rates? I don't think that's going to fix anything. But we're talking to a woman, so we're not going to get any answers that are going to fix anything from a woman, right, Rachel? We know that.
A horrible idea.
I think that's called a straw man. Yeah, that's a great, yeah. Yeah, I think, what did you call that? I think we call that a straw man, because yeah, of course my solution that I've outlined isn't just wait for IVF. In fact, one of the things that I think most importantly has to happen is a college level radical reformation, right? The idea that to just like work in mid-level HR, you need a bachelor's degree is fucking crazy. I'm sorry. There's no world that you need to be like Aristotle and, you know, back of the day said that doesn't matter. What you need is more technical schools so that people can expedite, get into the careers that they actually want, that are economical, that are pushing our GDP. All these fluffy industries, by the way, are what makes our country dominate the world. So careful what you insult there, okay? These fluffy tech jobs, by the way, sitting there, what's more like fluffy and soy than sitting and like working at a computer? I don't know. I feel like men should be sweating, right? By my own job. I love men sitting on computers, okay? You guys go off, kings.
Notice how it's just the men sweating. Always with this one. It's always the men that got to go sweat, and the women go to their air-conditioned cubicle to run their Pinterest empire. Okay.
What you actually need to talk about here is a radical reformation of the education system, which if you want to get on my leftist craziness, join me over here, okay? I'm down for it. If you want to talk about women getting maternity leave and dads getting pat leave and it being required by the company to pay for it and not the government, I'm all down for it.
So more socialism. More socialism to fix this socialist problem we created. Great, great, great. Yeah, I think that's always the antidote. If poison's the problem, more poison's the antidote. There you go.
I want moms to stay home for like a year. I want dads to stay home for at least 6 months to a year. It's tradable between the two. I think that's awesome. Norway does it, and it's fucking awesome, by the way. Also, you want to know, before you laugh about it, the childhood outcomes of children whose parents get mat and pat leave? You might want to guess it's really fucking good. Yeah, they're really successful.
So how do you make businesses that are losing money because the economy is in the shitter? How do you get them to just pay people to sit at home and play with their children? Because I want that job. Pay me for that. I'll go have kids if I can just stay home and play with them, throw the frisbee for a couple hours and I'm done. But that's not reality. She lives in a fantasy world where Big Boppa government bails you out of everything and they'll just create children. They'll make robot children or something for this fucking dimwit. She doesn't understand that it's not going to be a sustainable solution because she's not very fucking smart.
Children. So I wanted to deal with the birth rate issue just as much as you do by radicalizing the speed of getting people from education into it. I think the tax that we put on the young in America is insane. I want boomers to stop just gobbling up all the wealth at the top and then holding on to their assets so that it's not there for anybody else. And I think the moment you make life affordable, so it's not $45,000 to have.
I want you to notice here too, she wants to reduce the tax burden on the youngsters. Like, what is that going to do? You think that if you don't tax them, they're just going to start shitting out babies? This is nonsense, and this only makes sense in a woman's brain, and that's why that woman's brain needs to be by the kitchen where she can cook some shit with the rest of her brain, because this is dumb.
Have a baby, suddenly people want to have kids a lot more. That's going to be my guess.
So if the government can just afford to figure out a way to where we can just pay everybody to not have to work anymore, then that would be the solution. But I don't think we're there yet. Like, we're not on Star Trek. We still have to go and make a living, and that's just reality. And that these leftists never deal with reality. They deal with this hypothetical world where everything can be awesome. We just got to get people to pay all our bills for us. And then everything's awesome. Childish.
Yeah, so this is a math problem, which is why I started my opening with all those infographics for you, because you cannot subsidize your way out of this problem.
Right.
In order to be able to have enough,
but okay.
We're not Norway.
What's the deal with the interrupting again? The one who complained about the interrupting first?
This is a very large country. And
well, I said private institutions would cover it.
Well,
Well, you might at least deal with what I'm saying.
At least shut the fuck up and stop interrupting, bitch. That's why you can't be a good worker, because you can't shut the fuck up.
Or you can strawman. That's fine. We're doing strawman hour now. Go ahead.
You can't.
Didn't she suggest the 2 minutes too? I'm pretty sure I remember her saying, let's just do 2 minutes because I don't like being interrupted.
Subsidize
like
your
doing
way
it.
out of this. You can't just, we'll just pay for people to be able to be parents. We'll just give them infinite time off so they can spend more time. I already explained this is a math problem. When you have 1/3 of men in the country not even participating in the workforce, your social safety nets are already about to collapse. You cannot add paid family leave and have everybody working a part-time job and subsidize college for everyone. This is what started the problem. The smart countries that are going to still be here and are going to be dominating in the future, I would wager, are the ones who are going to prioritize producing actual goods, including things like food, their own power. They will have energy independence. That's all male-dominated industries. The smart countries are going to say, hey, ladies, here's some incentive for you to stay out of the workforce early on in life. Have a family. We're going to make women staying home and raising their own children the affordable thing, not some kind of weird government subsidy where mommy and daddy both work, but you get a bunch of government subsidized time off for like the first year or two of your child's life. I don't know if you know this, but they live longer than a year or two. They still need you when they get older. So
my died young.
It would be a lot smarter, rather than to just double down on all the shit that has caused all the problems, to say, maybe this was the wrong approach, and maybe looking into the future, we should prioritize long-term stability and make families independent of the government, rather than continue to double down on government's your daddy policies.
Gotcha. So speaking of...
Kayla's entire solution was, hey, let's just all go live in a utopia. If we just find a utopia and everybody move there, then there's no problems anymore, because they'll just pay you. They'll just pay you to live at home and raise your children and have as many as you can. It's not fucking a real solution, because if we had utopia, I'd already moved there.
Fluffy dream worlds. Oh my goodness. Honestly, Rachel, I want to live in your fan fiction utopia too.
Oh, Rachel's is a fan fiction. where the husband just goes and makes a living and the woman raises the kids, that's a fan fiction. But a utopia where everybody just gets all their bills paid and gets paid to raise their children, that's not far-fetched at all.
It sounds fucking awesome. How are you going to do that, though? Because it seems like, you know, if you want your economy to be successful and booming, it seems like the countries who are best at it went, well, we definitely want all people who are best at human capital to be in the spaces that they're most efficient at. It seems like, you know, we've done things like we've tried to have comparative advantages. So we go, why have one woman at home teach 2 kids when that same woman who's really talented teacher can teach 15 kids, and that other woman who is now not teaching her kids because another woman that is wonderful and that we've regularly and we trust is.
So we have really high education numbers too, Kayla? Like we're like so educated? I can go pull up videos of girls and boys too, men and women, who can't name 3 states, who can't name 4 countries. They can't, they're fucking dumb. So your assertion here that, you know, those teachers are doing a really great job kind of falls flat on reality here when we look at the retarded children who can't fucking do anything. They need a safe space to even talk to you. I don't think using the education system is some kind of an excuse for why you're winning. Like, what? People are dumber than they've ever fucking been, by a lot.
Is teaching her children, and that woman can go and do something else successful in whatever way that she would be. Maybe it's making delicious brownies, which, by the way, don't knock brownies, okay? Never knock brownies until you've tried one, right? But when we're talking about the affordability, if you're talking about the affordability crisis, how are you proposing to solve it? Because
yeah, what kind of Adderall speech is that where you just start talking about brownies? Shut the fuck. This is just, headaches is swelling.
I'm putting forward real answers, like, for example, tax credits. So tax credits for anything having to do with child rearing, make anything associated.
Some more subsidies. That's her solution is make the government and make your employers pay all your bills. And let the women go be girl bosses. That's the solution here. That's going to make men and women start reproducing. No, all you're going to do is have a bunch of women in Cabo, right? They're not going to raise children. They're just going to take this new system and fucking take advantage of it. This is not going to fix anything. And even if it were to have like evidence to show that that would fix it, which you don't have, it's still, where would you find a government that can afford to pay you to just go have children? Where would you find an employer whose business model is just to make sure that you raise your children properly? Where would you find these 2 things, Kayla? In cartoon world? Where in reality is it that I can just go in, their motto is, yeah, work here because we're going to let you raise your kids all the time and you're not going to have to show up for work. Where is this business? I'll apply. It's just nonsense. This is nonsense. This is like an adult having a debate with a child that still has like candy in their brain.
Papers, for example, make a tax credit. That's not the taxpayer paying for it. That means you don't have to pay extra for it, right? All these things can be helped to make it more affordable to have a children.
Where does that money come from? The money that's getting paid to you, where does that come from? Is that how business works? That they just have that money sitting there on the side in case one day we go to that system, then they'll just give it to you? No, that's not sitting there. They've got to produce that money, which means your goods are going to go up because now this company, you know, I'm going to go buy a Coke at the store. Hey, Coke's a good company. They pay their employees to go have children at home. So I got to spend $20 to get a can of Coke. How does that work, Kayla? It only makes sense to children. That's what I'm trying to say. No company is going to pay you to go spend time with your children. That's just not that's not how business works.
Down for that. What is your fanfic utopian dream process of economy?
Yeah, Rachel's is a utopia. We go back to like 20 years, 30, 40 years ago where women stayed home and men went and worked. Yeah, that's a utopia. But finding a business that just has extra money just to give you to go live at home and take care of your children, that's not a utopia. That's not far-fetched. A government that just pays you indefinitely just to stay home and raise your kids, that's not fictitious at all.
Economy where women aren't working and aren't getting educated, but we're maintaining a competitive global GDP. What's the system for that?
Sure, I'll tell you. First of all, it's not women can't work, it's mothers should be. Mothers already have a job. They don't need a second job. The constant throughout all of human history still matters. Yes, we have modern technology now. That doesn't mean you can automate motherhood. That doesn't mean you can replace it or outsource it. We should be investing. So like I said, we have this 1/3 of American men who are not in the workforce because they don't see any reason to be. They've been told they're bad, they're toxic, they're never going to get a woman, and they're never going to have a future anyway. So just play World of Warcraft. Why not? Get on government subsidy for your ADHD and your autism, which you're all self-diagnosed with from being on TikTok all day. How about we incentivize young men who we desperately need in the trades? We need young men in the trades so bad. It's way cheaper to train them to do the trades than to send them to university. So how about instead of paying them to go to university, giving them $100,000, to go get some shitty degree?
Okay.
No.
To be fair, there's no room for the men in the universities anymore anyway, because it's just filled with women. That's all that's in the university. And not the kind of women like it was fun whenever I wanted to go to college because all the women were there. No, they're blue-haired and fat and they're fucking nasty and
Yeah, radical educational
reform. You send them
reform.
to tech schools to learn the trades, and then imagine how much money you can save when mom stays home. You don't have to pay for a second vehicle. You're not paying income tax from her wages. You don't have to pay daycare, which makes up 25% of the average American household's expenses, by the way. You're saving like 35% just by mom staying home if dad has a great, good paying job in infrastructure and the trades, which we desperately need anyway, instead of letting Jose come across the border and do it illegally.
Man, it's so interesting, Rachel. You're so much smarter.
Agreed. We could end the debate right there. We really could. Just shut it down and end it right here. Because that was the smartest thing Kayla's ever said.
It's really impressive. First of all, base for taking my idea. I'm glad we're vibing over that one. Radical education reformation. We can all just get behind that one. Like, we don't even need to be mad about that. And I'm with you on that one. Okay, so it's very miraculous how Rachel, in her own divine wisdom, in her own lifetime, has arrived at a economic and societal structural system that I guess nobody's ever thought of before. Like, why hasn't anyone ever tried that? Oh wait, we fucking did. We actually did try this thing where it's actually more.
Her brand of pantomime and fucking just stupid statements is just so migraine-inducing. Like the twerking and just twitching all the time, I would fucking lose my mind being in a house with this person.
Economic for women to stay at home. It's not actually. The reason why women enter the workforce in almost all most competitive global GDP is because when you increase the local labor force that is highly educated, you do better in the GDP participation. Sorry, that's just a fact. That's just a reality of human capital. We had the barring mothers. We had it from the 1910s to the 1930s. There was marriage bars. And what happened is we got into war. And we were like, oh, fuck, we kind of need them now. We bring them into war. And then all of a sudden, it's a proof of concept. Women can actually be incredibly powerful forces. They were the ones pushing the manufacturing. It is the manufacturing labor of women during the war that thrust America into the golden age.
Do you hear all these assertions too? Have you heard her giving any kind of like a backing behind all these, that women do this and women do? Have you heard any kind of backing? Or is this just more of her feelings and her opinions about reality? And we've already shown she's kind of fucking dumb. So I really don't even know what her assertions, what kind of weight would that hold? Like an assertion by a tweaking fucking meth monster? What the fuck? What is this?
Of that economic boom and allowed us to negotiate to become the global reserve currency, which I know you seem to not know anything about economics because you poo-pooed at the gold standard changing, which is crazy bad economic theory, by the way. But just so it's clear, when America became the global reserve currency, that was like the game change. You want to know why you're the dominant country now? It's that. It's that thing specifically. Because all of the nations got together and they were like, who do we think will be most reliable and stable and boom in the next coming future?
I'm curious, what is the Jay Dyer question? Does it have to do with that Gripus trilemma thing she was bitching about last time? She's always got a trilemma or a dilemma in her fucking shit. She just goes look up these terms just to throw them in there to try and sound smart. It's so obvious. But I'm not familiar with the Jay Dyer question. I did do the Jay Dyer versus not so erudite debate, but I don't remember the question. So if you could refresh my memory, I'll address it.
And it was fucking America, baby. So this idea of, well, why don't we just try this? Thank you, I appreciate it. This new economic system that nobody's ever thought of. We did, and we moved away from it because it was more efficient to do other things.
Kick it over, Rachel. 2 minutes.
So I'm not sure that it was more efficient. As I said, in the short term.
Yes, it's more efficient to get a bunch of women in there pretending like they can do a man's job. That's much more efficient. I've worked in those jobs, and trust me, it is not more efficient. Like I was in law enforcement, and every time we would have a girl come to our shift, the guy who worked the other shift, he would have to go on every call she went on, every single one. So instead of doubling your manpower when you get somebody new to your watch, it halved it. Because now he's got to go on all of her calls. So he's basically working the whole fucking city. That's how it was. And they made you, they would have called you in, hey, why were you on this call with her? Because I was on a traffic stop. Well, you got to close that out and go get her. They don't even understand. You're not helping here. Like that's not manpower whenever I've got to go and babysit you every time you do anything.
Yeah, but GDP go up.
No,
But at the expense of what? At the expense of what?
No,
So,
competitive GDP. I've said that.
Do you wanna
Well, if you're going to
just stick
straw
with
man
it?
me,
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're
do you want to
talking
talk
about.
to
I
me or
remember
do you want to straw man me?
first of all,
It's
I think
easy.
competitive.
She's not very good at answering questions, in case you haven't noticed. She's really good at pivoting from them. She's kind of like a bullfighter in that aspect. She's really good at pivots, but she doesn't answer any questions. Her questions, because when you get down to it, her solution was make the government pay those people just to have children. There you go, problem solved. So the government's just going to pay every human living in America a subsidy to go home and just take care of that child. Do you know how unrealistic that is? Like that's just silly talk. Or to make all the employers, everybody who owns a business now, just pay your workers to stay at home and take care of kids. There you go, problem solved. Except no business would stay in business. Like that's not how business runs. It doesn't just run off of making sure your employees can get home and fuck enough. That's not what they're in business for.
GDP.
I think you need one of those special brownies you were talking about to bring you down from the Adderall
Yes.
high. Because you're just
Yay,
like,
Dragon Sauce.
it's like, whoa, let's
If you want to just go to like
relax.
weird
Did you
Dragon
have-
Sauce and
How
like,
many Red Bulls did you have?
I don't
Just
know, Rachel, can you
chill.
raise your eyebrows? Give it a try.
All right, we are.
Ever tried it
We
before?
are going to. All right.
Yeah.
So this
your
is.
Botox looks really good
these
on you,
are-
by the way.
What are we
All
even
right.
talking about?
All right.
Well, I
let's
know you
do-
a Botox, and it looks great, by the way. Go
let's-
off, Queen. I
all right,
love
let's
it.
do a reset.
Okay.
2 minutes for Rachel. Go ahead.
Botox.
Good stuff there. So,
It was funny. It was for the crowd, okay? We were giving some crowd pleasers.
yes, you're a bastion of entertainment. Love it.
Sure.
Keep going.
That's why you brought me here.
So, again, we're trading
Oh.
long-term sustainability, and again, none of this matters. Oh wow, you've got a massive GDP right now. Ooh wow, there's like all of this unsustainable, goofy, fluffy women jobs that I just showed you. The reason I had to have slides was to give people the visual impact of just how much of women's empowerment is subsidized by men's actual productivity. Women own 40% of businesses in the United States and produce 6% of the revenue. How is that more efficient? How is that better for the future? How does that sustain anything?
Because small businesses don't.
I don't think Rachel understands. They're all entrepreneurs, right? They don't deal in money like normal people. They deal in like, I don't even know what you call it, woman ideas. Like this is just silliness. 6% of the global people, you own 40% of the businesses and you produce 6%. 6%. Okay.
We get to have that, you guys.
I don't know what
You
you
get
wanna
to
give.
have that at the cost of not having enough babies to replace anyone, having labor shortages.
And no sex. Don't forget that one, Rachel, because these monsters are awful. Like you got to pretty much just not even talk to them. That's how I get by with it. I just don't talk to them because they're just going to say stupid shit and make me want to kick them out. So you just don't talk to them. Like that's all you can do because they're so awful now.
Massive inflation. Like, if this is working so well and it's doing so great, why do you yourself say we have so many economic problems? Now, you don't think it's because of feminism, fine. But everywhere in the world that we push mothers out of the home and into the workforce, the birth rate collapses.
Absolutely. Because they can't exist without men paying them to go play a game. They have to get money from the men's league or else they would all be underwater every fucking season. And even with them paying them, they're still underwater most seasons. So that's a perfect example. I'm glad you brought that up. That is exactly how the world works in Not So Erudite's brain. That you just have men pay you to go do these things that you're supposed to do. No one tells you you're supposed to do them. That's what you want to do for female empowerment. You're really tall, so you need to be dunking basketballs. That's the mentality here, right?
Collapses, and that will have to be dealt with regardless of if you love having lots of psychologists and crumble cookies and Etsy ladies and whatever.
Yeah, I can tell that you only prepped this point, so I've already addressed that. I
It's
agree
not that
birth
I
rate
didn't only
decline.
prep this point, it's the only
second.
point
I
that
do-
matters.
Well, you're right. You prepped more, and then I brought disconfirming
All right,
evidence, so you had to run
we
away
do
from
have-
it.
While Kayla continues to interrupt while complaining about interruptions.
have to kick it over to
1970s
You still
Kyla.
haven't told me
Wait,
what
we
we're
do
going to
have
do
to-
about
we
that.
do have
I've
to
given
kick it
you
over to
multiple
Kyla for
answers.
2
In fact,
minutes
you
as
borrowed
well.
some of them.
All right.
None of them solve the problem.
All right, I
It's
need
a
to do it.
gripless trilemma
Yeah, I
all
need to do
over
it.
again.
All right, hold on a second. We do have to.
Solve
we're
Rachel's
going back
dilemma.
to the.
Do you want
we're
to
going
work
back to
rate?
the
I mean,
2-minute.
again,
The 2-minute responses.
You're the one who
so,
uses a gripless
so
trilemma.
we're
You
going to
just
give
don't
Kyla
realize it.
2 minutes. Kyla, the floor is yours for 2 minutes.
Okay, awesome. So again, when we talk about so why are women-owned businesses only contributing to 6%? I think when you look at booming economies, the Fortune 500 I think probably contributes at least 30, maybe 40% of the GDP in tax receipts. So the idea that it's all these small businesses, all small businesses don't contribute that much to government tax receipts. Welcome to the government, I suppose. When we're talking about goofy, fluffy women jobs, I agree that there's too many Etsy shops, but they're gonna die and go under anyways, right? Sure, but the reality is that these goofy, fluffy women jobs were created by corporate infrastructure because they realized things like Ford is a great example of this, right? Ford made HR in 1910 because big companies need it. They need managers and they need people that oversee people to make sure you keep making work. So if you're so smart in all your wisdom, you have to go to the Fortune 500. You have to go to Elon Musk himself and be like, hey, those HR jobs really silly, not good for the economy. It's not very efficient. And I'm going to probably look at you and say, I probably know more about what's good for the economy. As I said before, it's not GDP go up, and it's never been. That's always been a straw man of my argument. It's about maintaining a competitive GDP. And the reason why is if you can't fund your military and keep up with the other countries around you, they are going to stomp on you. And that has been shown in recent history. And we need to be aware of it because we have to fund these things. We have to.
Okay. So again, I don't know how else. It's like trying to teach force doctrine to you. It just doesn't stick. You still think it's about majorities or something goofy.
No, it's about category errors.
It's not.
called an
You
interruption.
just
Right.
don't understand it. But
I do.
if you don't have women, what do we need more of? Do we need more women doing multi-level marketing, selling Lululemons and Tupperware? Or do we need women having babies so that we can actually have a big military? Actually, do you remember my slide about?
I think the solution is to give them a choice. Give women a choice. If you think this feminism is real, then fine, you've got to go work a real man's job. You're going to be laying asphalt today. You're not going to be a cop. You're not going to be a CEO. You're going to be laying asphalt. You're going to do some roofing work today. You can do that, or you can go fucking start having kids. Those are your choices. But no more feminism where you get to go be a CEO. No. There's no reason that would ever suggest that you should be a CEO of a company you had nothing to do with and that ran perfectly fine without a woman there. There's no reason for that. But you could go do the other jobs, the other things. Go work out go work offshore for a little bit. Go get some gas out of the ground. Go do that. And then you can tell me that this feminism isn't all bullshit. But whenever you just tell me, yeah, we could come take over all the, the executive jobs of everybody. Yeah, we could do those. You didn't do shit to be an executive. Go work from the bottom up. Go work in the fucking oil fields. Go work out roofing. Do some construction work. And then tell me that you're fucking equal. Then tell me.
If we didn't abort 1/3 of our babies, we'd have 45 million more people in our labor force. You don't think that's a good trade-off?
Well, my
you don't think
suspicion
that might be
that
better?
that slide probably didn't account for the fact
are
that the
you-
women who would be having those children would be single mothers, which
Just
are
to be
also
clear, you were
contributing to the
done. No, it
welfare
does.
state that we were upset about.
It accounts. So
probably not 45 million.
It did. So
Probably not.
If you have, it's an average of $26,000 of lifetime earnings that women will lose when they have a baby that they would have otherwise aborted. That's the estimate from, I think, Guttmacher and then the U.S. Department of Labor.
I don't trust that.
If you didn't, of course, you don't trust them.
I've read your book, baby girl. I don't trust any of your
Their
suggestions.
government, it's the government, the Department of Labor is the U.S. government.
Remember
I'm
when
not
you said
pulling
Hypatia was
sources out of
fun?
thin air.
Just to be
So-
sure that.
That was a fun one.
If you
She wasn't, by
had,
the way.
I
I
do
don't
wanna-
even know what she's saying.
All right, just to be
She's
sure that
spurging.
I do think we're going to go back to the 2 minutes.
Yeah, you can't debate people on methamphetamines. They can't stop fucking talking. I don't know how much more obvious this is. This is just like a destiny debate. She just complains about interruptions and then constantly talks the entire time Rachel's trying to talk. I would just stop. Look, if she ain't gonna shut up, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. I'm not gonna debate this tweaker no more because this is fucking disgusting.
Minute
pretty calm.
segments. So
You're not calm.
we're going to
I
go back
am
to the
calm.
2-minute segments. All right.
No.
So go ahead, Rachel. We'll put it at.
So I'm saying once
one-
again, maybe don't kill off 1/3 of our labor force. That would probably help GDP.
sure, but probably making
All right,
it
2 minutes.
probably making it so that 50% of our labor force doesn't enter the workforce is also not the best comparative advantage that we can talk about. Like, I'm
Yeah, but I'll take that 50%. I just don't want the good 50% to not show up for work. I'll take the other 50.
happy to talk to you about abortion and the problems with it and like how mothers need to be supported more in our society. I've granted you that from the beginning. That's not an assailing on my position, because I'm with you that like one of the worst things that we have seen, even with like the third wave feminism, is that nobody looked at mothers and said that that thing is beloved. Nobody looked at a mother and said that that is something worth cherishing and protecting. And you can see it because of the lack of policy created so that women have options and opportunities. The reality is, do we need more of like babies and MLMs? The reality is, why not try to find a system where it's a little bit easier to do both?
You can't.
You can. We
Other
have
countries have tried.
Yes, because your solution, make men pay women more. Make them pay the men and the women. Make them pay everyone just to go have children. But where does that money come from? Is it just shitted out of a fucking bucket in the sky and it just rains down? Where does that money fucking come from? These leftists, they're children. They're children because daddy just pulls money out of his wallet. I guess it comes out of daddy's wallet. That's where it comes from. No. That business and that government doesn't just have free money to throw around just so you can go have children. No, that's your responsibility. It's not the government's job to pay you to do your duty. It's your job to do your duty.
It and it's failed massively. And
really
they've had
America's
over a
failing
century.
so much.
They've had
well, I can
over a
see-
century to
are
figure
you-
it out in
just to be
China
sure,
and Russia, and China has
Kyla, are you-
massive technology
Kyla, are
and they
you
can't
done with
figure
your-
it out.
Done with your 2 minutes, or do you? I can't tell.
I'll respond. It's fine. It's fine. This back and forth is totally fine with me. Yeah. So in the case of America, I would say booming countries that are succeeding as a result of the labor force being injected with women and basically everyone who wants to work. America is a really good example of how it is working. You know, as what my favorite feminist said.
Well, I'm going to back that up. I just want y'all to look at her twerking. I just want y'all to watch this tweaking that this girl is doing in a live debate in front of people, like in front of a crowd. Let's just check that out. I just want y'all to just look at the tweaking.
Have options and opportunities.
She
The
cannot
reality
sit
is,
still.
do we need more of like babies and MLMs? The reality is, why not try to find a system where it's a little bit easier to do both?
You can't.
You can. We
Other
have
countries have tried it and it's failed massively. And
Really,
they've had
America's
over a
failing
century.
so much.
They've had
well, I can
over a
see-
century to
are
figure
you-
it out in
just to be
China
sure,
and Russia, and China has
Kyla, are you-
massive technology
Kyla, are
and
you
they
done
can't
with
figure
your-
it out.
Done with your 2 minutes, or do you? I can't tell.
I'll respond. It's fine. It's fine. This
watch
back and
right
forth is totally fine with me. Yeah. So in the case of America, I would say booming countries that are succeeding as a result of the labor force being injected with women and basically everyone who wants to work. America is a really good example of how it is working. You know, as what my favorite feminist said, the Dow is over 50,000, right? The economy of America is growing, and it's growing consistently. Trump is doing everything in his power to slow it as much as possible. However, it is growing, and it is, I think right now it's still 12 trillion over China. That comparative edge matters because for those of you who are in cybersecurity, anybody here in cybersecurity? Okay, a little bit. Yeah, you guys know that the main thing keeping us ahead of China in cybersecurity is we have a lot of fucking money because their tech is so much better, which is dangerous to Americans today. It's not just bombs flying over and military troops walking into China and shooting Chinese people. It's cybersecurity. It's attacks on our systems. Just recently, the Hugging Face ChatGPT thing got out. That's what's dangerous. So what you need in a competitive GDP, and your system is saying it's not working. It is working. We just need to continue to find solutions to modernization so moms and dads can have kids too. I'm with you on finding a solution to that, but your answer is pressure women not to go into work, and we tried that. It doesn't work very well for maintaining everything that you're.
When did we try that? When did we try that? Are you talking about the 1940s or something? Because it worked pretty fucking well. We got to here, didn't we? No, I don't know why we needed to change anything. We were like the #1 country in the world then. So why did we need to change things? Oh, because Rockefeller wanted more fucking workers, and he didn't want a country of thinkers. He wanted a country of workers. Well, I don't want to be a worker bee for some fucking corporation. Fuck that corporation.
Society needs, which isn't just lots of babies, because Pakistan, tons of babies, not a great economy.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Why do you want mothers with young children to be at work all day?
I want them to be able to work at home. That's a great option for them.
How many of them do you think can work from home and contribute to?
I want you to notice it's always some bullshit woman job where you work from home, right? You can't pave the asphalt from home. You can't get up on a roof and fix it on from home. You can't go and like get gas out of the ground from home. None of these jobs that move society, it's always work from home. So, you know, we're gonna work HR from our house. Some bullshit like that. Believe me, we could eliminate every HR job in the world right now and no one would notice tomorrow.
The necessary and productive parts of the economy.
I mean, I think HR jobs are increasingly moving to remote positions. I think like 20 to 30%.
Just more HR jobs. Everybody be an HR Karen.
Again, you can
Everybody
laugh at
work
it,
in
but
HR.
take it up with Elon Musk.
Do you think Elon
Great
Musk has
economist,
an
Rachel.
HR department because of any other reason than Title IX making women be able to frivolously sue their employers for sexual harassment?
So there can be problems
He
with
would get
women
rid
in the
of his
workplace.
HR department tomorrow if you couldn't bring frivolous lawsuit after frivolous
No.
lawsuit
Yes.
that I didn't get the promotion because Tommy was sleeping with Lisa instead of me or whatever nonsense. Like Title IX caused that. We
No,
did not
it
have
started
a
in
desperate
1910.
need for HR.
It started in 1910 with Ford because Ford realized that it had more human capital that it could manage with just its direct system. So it built HR
do you mean the same
departments. They
Ford
did it.
Foundation that created women's studies?
Yes.
Do you mean them? Oh, that's convenient, isn't it?
Well, wait, are you really trying to tell me that corporations, by the good of their heart, are making these stupid jobs that are useless, don't help their company, don't help their stakeholders, they don't maintain their fiduciary response, they just love women so much? Oh my God, every CEO out there is just like, fuck the stakeholders, boys. We got to get women in the workplace. Find them stupid jobs. I don't know, make
If
them
you could
fold
stop the
brownies
meth
or
prattle,
something.
I'll respond.
Yeah,
Like
please.
seriously, like you're going 5,000 miles an hour about absolutely nothing.
I know,
And
when
it's
you don't know anything about
it's
the
like
economy, it can be
watching a
tough when I
person
talk
on
about it, hey?
All right, I
methamphetamine
do.
just
I
spurt.
do.
I'm never debating a meth head. Fuck that. Whatever like methamphetamine like creation she's took it for this. I'm not sure. I don't know. That's my opinion. But I'm never debating somebody on shit like this because it is just tedious. Just every fucking word is just tweaking.
Have
fuck
to-
out.
Red Bull,
All right.
first of all.
All
I
right.
don't do
Let's-
amphetamines.
So
Bad for my
Sure,
brain.
no,
sure.
corporations wanted cheap labor and the government wanted more income tax. So the Ford Foundation in their own papers, which I cite in my book that you say you've read, said, let's make women working, let's support feminism, they literally created women's studies departments as a vehicle to push Marxist feminism
In the
into the
60s.
universities.
Yeah.
Yes, and to get
But
women to
HR
buy
started
in,
in the 1910s.
to
So.
get women to buy into the idea that work and being a career woman is empowering and safe, and that motherhood is risky and dangerous and holds you back from whatever. You need to be liberated, but nobody ever asks from what? What were women liberated from? Because the only thing I can see that we were liberated from is intact structural families, our own children, and our own interests. Now,
And being able to sleep on the sofa all day long. Now you get to go to work and worry about bills, stupid ladies.
we spend our lives working for corporations and paying income tax at the expense of our own relationships with our children, our own marriages, our own communities. Like, how much have we lost from sending women to work for Ford and Elon Musk and be in HR versus them being at home building communities, taking care of each other? The women used to
And-
all be home together.
Sure, we've
We're at-
probably lost
we're at
many
3
things.
minutes. I want to give each of you a minute and a half. That's the last of our 3 minutes of open dialogue.
Okay. Bet. So your theory of everything falls apart really hard when you get any amount of disconfirming evidence, right? Manufacturing, for example, as you tried to suggest originally, was dying in the 1970s. It wasn't. It started dying in the 1950s, again, because of the Triffin dilemma. When you want to talk about economics and why people are struggling, we have to have big girl conversations and not just be mad at the other girls and what they're doing. The reality is that we did try the model after industrialization to keep women home. We barred women from workplaces, particularly married women, the women that you would like to bar from workplaces. And the reality is that America was not competing at a large level. It wasn't a superpower at the time. And there's a reason why most Fortune 500, all Fortune 500s,
Did she just say that America wasn't a superpower in the like 1950s? Is that what she said? That you really need to listen to the things she says because she says a lot of stupid things that are untrue, and she just asserts them as if they're facts. Like that's all her entire debate technique is. I'm just going to assert all these things are facts, and you're just going to believe it because you're not going to go look them up. But she just said America wasn't a superpower in like the 1950s before feminism. That's horseshit.
have invented these things. Again, a CEO's fiduciary responsibility, and since we're doing pop quiz, that means a legal responsibility is to stakeholders. Corporations aren't going out of their way to make jobs that are useless for women because they're nice and they love feminism. That doesn't even make sense. The reality of a capitalist is they're constantly thinking about their bottom line. And if HR makes their large corporation work more effectively.
My department got grants to hire women. So they could hire a person, but it had to be a woman. So they would hire these women and then stick them on a shift with a man and then make him go do her job and his job. So it really didn't solve anything. It kind of was free manpower, and it was good to have them around in case you need to pat down a woman. But other than that, like, you don't have much to do because a man's going to be escorting you through your entire day.
That's what they're going to do. This idea of Ford and the gender studies, I'll just grant you, Ford did do that in the gender studies. I don't really care. It falls apart the moment you just think about a timeline. Ford invented HR long before they were pushing gender studies.
Seconds.
So this idea that Ford just had this maniacal plan, instead of actually, it was an economic supply response of needing clerical work increasingly in large corporations to make these corporations more effective. I guess take it up with every single fucking billionaire. I don't know what to tell you, Rachel.
With that, we'll kick it over to Rachel for him. It's the final segment, 1.5 minutes for you, Rachel.
So first of all, I'm not going to be lectured on having big girl conversations by someone who hasn't accomplished even a tenth of what I've accomplished in my life. That's number one. Number two, you came in here.
How much older are you than
it's
me?
my
No interruptions, bitch. You asked for this.
time.
Aren't you like 20 years
My
older?
time.
I do want to give Rachel a
You
chance.
gotta shut up at some point and let me talk too.
Yeah.
Fight the meth, kid. Fight the meth.
Only
You
me
came
as
in
a
All right,
here
we
wanting
do-
to have
hold on.
this friendly female conversation that was all subterfuge, that was all trickery,
It wasn't.
because you were the quickest
All right.
to insult me personally and,
Nope.
and spurg out and go off on wild tangents. And I'm not going to be lectured about big girl conversations by somebody who is just over here having an absolute autism fit with her Red Bull or what. I don't even know half of what you said.
I can
But
tell.
here's the problem.
You definitely don't
The
know.
future belongs to those who show up for it. And we have a choice to make. We cannot have women working full-time jobs and dedicating all their lives to careerism and have them be good full-time mothers, raising the next generation of human beings above replacement level. They will continue to abort a third of every generation. They will continue to remain single and unmarried, or if they even, do have children, they're doing it single and
15
unmarried.
seconds.
This is the only question that matters. Everything else economically won't matter if this doesn't get solved.
Thank you very much for that closing. Special thanks to our sponsor, Maine First Project, fighting to put Mainers first. Check out.
Oh yeah, they do a Q&A after, so we'll check out a few of the Q&As. I got a little extra time. Why not?
mainfirstproject.org.
Especially,
Nice to meet you.
I heard somewhere that the three most influential things, I guess, on the planet are the nuclear bomb, the transistor, and birth control, right? I don't know if that's true, but it sounds right to me.
Okay.
If you could remove one of those, you can't remove the first two. The third one is something you could do about, and to me, that sounds like that's under feminism. Can you at least acknowledge feminism as at least part of the problem? And if we eliminated that part, would that not help everything?
So feminism.
Here's a good question for you. All those inventions were men. Men invented all those, including the fucking tampon. Now, if you women were so desperate to get into the workforce, don't you think you could have came up with cotton on a fucking string? You couldn't have come up with that? Like, it wasn't very important to you if you were going to stay out of it for like 2,000 years and not think of cotton on a string.
Is part of the problem and it's part of the solution to a lot of issues, right? Society isn't just like a simple thing, right? Pakistan is a really good example of a country with exploding birth rates. They really solved that issue, but their economy is struggling and they keep on getting dumpstered by India in war, right? Pakistan is a great example of why in a country, lots of things matter all at once. What you're calling contraception, is that like feminism or technology? It's probably a bit of both, right? But what it really is pharmaceutical companies making money from a technology that's utile, right? So the issue is you're pointing at one of the technologies as being like useless and we don't need it. However, I don't even know how we begin to make that argument because we do need women in the workplace and giving them more control of their family planning.
Do we need them there, though? Why do we need them there? We're about 2 hours into this debate, and you have not proven in any way that we need those women in those workplaces. I'm still waiting for that. Prove that first.
Has allowed women to massively excel in workplaces and achieve higher levels of education and productive output than ever before.
Hey,
I know you
James,
can't respond, sorry.
just a quick note on that. The reason that Pakistan's economy sucks so bad, even though the birth rate is high, is because they are a Muslim nation with the highest rate of inbreeding in the world.
Oh, I forgot brown people. How did I not think
No.
of that?
Are you going to sit here and say that
All right,
that
just
lowered
to be
IQ
sure.
from inbreeding is not a serious factor in
It's
their
a huge,
economic-
it's a
Yeah.
huge issue within Pakistan. The issue is that if your birth rate dream was so awesome, their birth rate is like
Well, you don't have to
7.1.
marry your cousin.
Well,
hate
you
to do
kind
this.
of, sure.
I'm not
sure.
saying
We do
marry
have to
your
go to the next
cousin.
question.
Rachel,
Yes, they have lots of flipper kids. So what?
I know disconfirming evidence sucks for you, but you actually
No,
have to
I
deal with
just
it and
blew
not
you
just
out.
go, ma, brown
We
people.
You
have to
just
go to the
sat
next
here and said
question.
my birth
Is-
rate is not always
we
so
do
good.
have
It's
to
like,
keep it
no,
moving.
you're
We do have
It's
to
almost
keep
like
moving.
countries that
All
only
right.
invest in
The whole
birth rate
reason
and don't invest in
is they
GDP
are
Alright.
tend to be
80
high.
IQ
Kyla,
cousin
Rachel.
Yes,
brothers.
countries that
Rachel,
control women
we do
and
have to
don't
go
let them in the
into
workplace
Q&A.
and don't allow them any
There are more
autonomy
people.
are
There are more people
shitholes.
wanting to ask their
True.
questions. All
That's
right.
Islam.
All right. Next up,
Kyla, this is
I need folks just so they can hear the speaker.
You mentioned Saudi Arabia and Qatar, but from 1960 to today, Saudi Arabia's female participation rate went from 15% to over 35%, and they've delayed the time to have a first child to almost age 27. How does that not make Rachel's point?
Because again, I don't think I would look at Saudi Arabia as a bastion of it. In fact,
Right, because you don't always think of it as one. But if they're inserting feminism into their society, then you kind of have to start thinking that way, don't you? If they're at 30% now, that's a little higher than it was before. So they are getting more and more feminized, whether you like it or not, even if that goes against your like preconceived notions of what Saudi Arabia is like.
Saudi Arabia, a close ally of America, is letting women who are very educated in Saudi Arabia, for example, participate in their workforce because it's useful for them. That's why they're letting them do it. They're, by the way, still cutting off clits, so not exactly a feminist bastion.
I mean, it makes her point, though.
It doesn't make her point because if the point is feminism is causing this problem, it's actually modernization that's causing
They
this
more
problem.
than doubled
I do
their
wanna
female
move.
work.
You got it, fellas. They were just desperate to have a woman tone policing them in Saudi Arabia. They really needed some woman to come tell them to say, hey, knock it off, fellas. That's what they needed. It was desperately needed.
Force.
I do wanna move
and
to the
they're
next one.
educating women and pushing them into
Look,
the
if you want to take the claim that Saudi Arabia is a famous feminist bastion, you can take it.
Why
I just
are
think
you
it's
so
absurd
upset?
on
Can
face.
you-
All right.
Why are you so angry?
All right. We're going to go to the
I'm
next
not
question.
angry. I'm
You've
laughing.
been,
All right.
you've been
I'm having a
freaking
great
out
time.
this whole time.
I got a
Everyone's-
cute outfit.
I have a good time whenever I'm high too. Like, yeah, that's how we can tell you're high, kid. That's how we can tell.
I'm
Everyone's-
feeling
All right.
great.
We're going to go to the next question.
Hi, sir.
Look at her. She's smiling through a beatdown, the utter beatdown that she's gotten in this debate, and she's smiling. So, yeah, drugs are good, I guess.
So I wanted to ask you about Henry Ford.
I don't know much about Henry
so
Ford.
he started human resources, you said, in the 1910s. So
I believe
like
it was 1910
1913.
that the Ford industry
In
did, yeah.
1916, he was sued by the Dodge brothers for
True.
improperly investing and not protecting shareholders and lost that case.
Okay.
So wouldn't that kind of show that Henry Ford was not a good
Uh-oh.
actor in the corporate space?
I don't know much about the case, but were they sued over HR?
They were sued over wages and improper investment,
HR?
using dividends to pay for
HR is the investment, you shithead. That's his point. That is the investment. They invested in an HR department.
HR.
That's a big stretch there, sir. So was it HR that they were sued over, or was he doing fraudulent behavior? Sounds like the fraud might have been a bit more of a spicy problem. Oh, okay.
Hi, Kyla. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Appreciate the debate tonight. Juicy, as James would say. My question is for you, Rachel. You and Andrew sometimes deal with this idea that like guns are an equalizer, as in they can sort of minimize the distance between men and women in terms of the physical force they can exert.
Right.
And I know you have problems with that argument.
How would it? When she shoots herself in the leg, how would it? How would it equalize that force? Now he's got to take care of her.
But I can pretty easily imagine a future where a technology that's a true equalizer, like maybe gene editing is just one example, could just be a reality not so far from now. So I just wanted to ask, what does that world look like to you? And in a way, does it make kind of an egalitarian philosophy or fact of life inevitable?
Does the gene editing you're talking about make it so that men can have babies?
Probably not for a while. Probably not for a long time.
Then I would say no. Will it make it so that we have women that are the same rough size and strength as men? Because if it basically, unless you're going to turn
Rachel,
women
famous
into men,
biologist
then no.
here, by the way, knows a lot about CRISPR, I'm sure. Did you know that that's what the technology is called, by the way? It's CRISPR. Yeah.
Thanks, Mrs. Turner.
Look, baby girl, you're gonna love when I go through your book.
I
Okay.
love when she educates me.
All right.
It's my favorite.
When did Hypatia? Who's Hypatia, by the way?
Look, I
It's in your
can't.
book.
You're like meth-spurging, and I can't right now.
I'm-
We're gonna
you,
go
if
to
you,
the
you
next
can
question.
keep like insulting me, Rachel, but
Terry,
first of all,
I'm
not
between me and you,
debating
you.
I'm
I'm
mugging you
talking
every
to the
single day.
We're gonna
It's-
move.
Is she? Is this Tweak Monster mogging her? Like I don't know all the terms. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm assuming it's a good thing. But is she doing that to Rachel here? Because it doesn't really feel that way to me.
Second
We're gonna
of all,
move to the next
who's
question.
Hypatia?
Tyriek.
Yeah, you don't want to answer,
What's
do
great.
you?
Yeah, so Kyla, I was wondering, like, what is the proposed solution from feminism? Because in terms of Rachel's proposed
Can you say
solution,
that again? Sorry.
what is the proposed solution from feminism that we're going to get at least a
Here we go.
million lives back into the economy for workers and all that stuff? This is what Rachel's talking about with the mathematics. We get rid of elective abortion. That's 1 million lives each year coming into America.
Yeah, a lot of those.
What's
so
the
getting rid of the
feminism
abortion
council?
also means that you're going to have a massive amount of those lives going on the welfare state, which I think you guys don't like. Actually,
It's still more
the
people.
solution for birthright that I've offered.
Hey, or maybe they won't go in the welfare state. Hey, maybe women will learn to be a little more responsible, right? Maybe you just can't eliminate all your mistakes like men can't do. Maybe you get to fucking experience actual equality, right? You don't get to just go and make a living off of having kids anymore. Like you've got to actually, produce.
Offered a number of times is we need modernization solutions. So probably tax credits, making it affordable to have
Just in
children,
front of
making
the
it
camera.
easier for moms to stay home or work at home and be economically successful. There's a lot of things that we need to try. It's not really a simple solution because it's not a simple problem anymore with modern technology. But we should try things, and we haven't really tried enough things, and we should.
Yeah, so 1 million lives a year is not worth banning elective abortion, is what
Much
you're saying.
bigger tax base to help fund those social safety nets.
Again, unless they're on welfare, which you would assume that they're going to be if they're being
No,
born to
you would
single
not
mothers.
assume that they're all going to grow up and be on welfare.
I wouldn't
Absolutely
assume
not.
all of them, but I would guess that it would probably be 20 to 30% of them because probably the women most
Oh, she's done the math, I'm sure. I'm sure Kayla did the math to figure out that 20% is going to be on. No, I think she's just pulling shit out of her ass like she's done for this whole debate. Just pull some shit out of your ass and just go with it. Hope nobody notices and can't refute it because you're talking too fast.
likely to seek abortions are going to be with
For a-
women in situations where they become single mothers. And so
tempor-
those children are going to be on welfare, which is going to be costing tax receipts. So I guess your system, not so great. It feels really great when you chat GBT
All
your
right,
numbers. When you
we're gonna
actually get
jump
real about economics,
next
it
question.
kind of falls apart.
Yeah, especially if you assert all the bullshit she made up, right? If you assert these numbers that Kayla just made up on the spot, well, then yeah, it would make your idea look bad. So maybe everybody should just like assert numbers like Kayla does. Just pretend like this is real just because I just said it. I just said it, so now it's real. That's not how reality works, though. Like, usually if you say something, you have to prove it. You don't just get to spurg it out like this and just act like everybody's got to believe it now.
We're jumping to the next question.
I'm sure if you talk faster and say more, everyone will think you won.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that if you're just bitchy and
go-
rude, everyone will
we're
think
gonna
you're
go to
funny.
James.
She
We're
won.
going to go to James.
All right, so my question's for Kyla. So if greater, it's based off something you said in your opening, if greater reproductive autonomy predictably results in more murdered babies, what's the benefit of that autonomy
It
that
was
is
her opening.
justifying the outcome?
I don't think anywhere in my opening I talk about reproductive autonomy. Like that was her.
No, you said that
You
it's
said the
better if women have
predictability.
control over their
You said these things were
reproduction, they can-
predictabilities when you were
Do you
talking
think
about
reproductive autonomy just means abortion?
it results. Are you going to
Are you
answer
gonna answer
my
that
question? Or
question?
are you asking me questions?
Yeah, I'm
All
following
right,
up
so
because you're talking about
you
reproductive
want to answer
autonomy.
the question or no?
Do you want to know anything that you're talking about? What's reproductive
This
autonomy?
is that likability problem Andrew
Yeah.
was talking
Well,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, because Kayla can't figure out why people don't like her. I could help her out.
There's one thing.
We're going to, all right, let's rein
What,
it
in a room full of Rachel
right.
fans, they like
Can
you
you-
more? That's crazy.
Can
You know, it
can you
helps your
just
arguments if you're
hold
not
on.
insufferable.
All right,
Hey, you ever wonder why there's more Rachel fans? It's because you're unlikable. It's because you're unlikable.
sorry to
I
do
would,
this.
and
but I do have to-
actually,
I do
being
have to-
insufferable is
All
good
right,
for your
I do-
arguments, actually.
just to get
That's
through,
funny.
just to
No,
get through
everybody
people's
likes
questions.
me.
That's
just to
not
get through,
true.
I'm very popular.
just to get
and
through
well
people's
liked.
questions. Can you restate your question in a rephrase it?
Do you want to just talk about abortion? Sounds like you want to talk about abortion.
Okay, do you want to
Relax,
answer
sir.
my
Keyboard
question
warrior
or do you want to
expert.
ask me questions again?
Okay,
If
go ahead.
greater reproductive autonomy results in more murdered babies, what's the benefit of that autonomy that justifies that outcome?
The benefit of more reproductive autonomy for women is that they're able to better control family planning, which allows them to do things like investing in a career and investing in better marriage status, which is why college women, by the way.
So it's better for them, right? Like I've said all along, it's whatever's better for that one individual, and fuck the world. That's her solution. It's better for me, so fuck all y'all, no children, we just get to fucking die off. That's her solution, and that's why you should never listen to this shithead.
Have the happiest education. So reproductive autonomy allows them to decide when they go to college because they can offset having children, which is good. It also results in things like abortion, which I agree, it would be great to get those numbers down, but that's why it's valuable, because it does more than just one thing.
So is that worth a million lives a year? Is that worth it? Just you being able to be your best girl? Being able to be like a girl boss? Is that more important than a million lives a year? Like if they were adults, if they were born already and they were going off to fight in war and we were going to lose 1 million a year, wouldn't we do something to stop that? I think we would.
Again, that what you just said is okay.
Oh, get out of here.
As
You're
a
not even
benefit.
keeping up. Get out.
We're going to go to the next question. Okay.
I wouldn't go nowhere. Fuck that.
All right.
Your mom's super proud of you,
Tramp.
though. Well, probably not, actually.
This is a PR disaster.
All right, we're going to go to the next question.
You are not
All
going
right,
to recover.
We're going to go to the
It's
next
not.
question.
She is so unlikable. So unlikable.
I can assure you.
Who would invite
Here we
you
go.
to an event
Well, we-
after the way you've behaved?
All right, we're going to go with
I'm a degenerate and I wouldn't fuck her. And like, I fuck some degenerate women.
Jonathan's question.
Jubilee.
We do have to go to the question. Jonathan has
Like
a
if
question.
you were my
All
daughter,
right,
I'd be
I hate
hauling
to
you out of
interrupt
here
you
by
guys.
your ear to
And
give
if you
you
were
a
my
talk.
mom, I'd have a lot more drama.
We're gonna
Yeah,
jump.
I
We're gonna
know.
jump to the next question. Come on
Well,
up,
your mama
Jonathan.
should've.
All right, folks, I do need you to do us a favor if you can keep it down just so we can hear the speakers and the question asker. All right, Jonathan, go ahead.
So what is the biggest roadblock to abortion, Rachel?
What is the biggest roadblock
To abolishing abortion?
Female entitlement. That's your answer. Female entitlement.
to abolishing it?
Yes. So there's no more abortion ever.
Women voting for it.
There you go. Thank you.
Good, another good one.
Okay.
Feminists run away from 50-50 custody. You guys talked today about about how men work and why they don't get to spend time with their children. But feminists constantly run away from the issue that men are treated unfairly in family courts, and that here in Dallas, 95% of the time custody is awarded to women, and they take those children and they abuse men and take our children away from us in family courts.
Yep.
So what is feminism going to come to the table and make 50-50 shared custody the standard bills and stop voting to take away our children?
Yeah, you notice. Kayla had a lot to say about how if you go off to work, you're just abandoning your children for 60 hours a week. You're abandoning your children, right? So she wants those dads in those kids' lives, but she doesn't want to fucking go against the feminism trade here, right? You can't fucking go against that because that's, you know, women just have to get paid for having babies. Like if you fucking divorce one, you got to pay her forever. They won't fucking argue against it because it's not good for women. Because it's not about equality. It's about what's good for women.
Children from us all the time.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that you're not particularly familiar with my work, right? Not everything that feminists do I think is good. I actually think that what you're highlighting here is a really big issue, which is why when I started my work in debate, I was in men's spaces advocating for male issues. Family court planning and, for example, things like financial abortion are rights that men don't have access to that creates an unequal rights. And I think that that's an issue that we have to address. And I think the fact that fathers are assumed de facto to not be a good caregiver and therefore they get limited access to their children is a fucking tragedy. I totally agree with you.
And she's doing so much to fight that, you know, if you ask a question at the end of a debate in the Q&A, but she's not going to do anything about it otherwise. So enjoy that. She just took up for you, fellas.
All right.
We're going next one.
But she'll spend hours and hours in debates defending the rights of women to have whatever they fucking want, even if it's bad for society. Still got to have it because a woman wants it. But she does nothing. I've never heard her fucking argue for men to get more fucking custody. Not once. And I've watched 5 or 6 of her debates, as many as I could stand.
Not at all. Kyla,
Hi.
you said something I really liked. My name's Chris.
Hi,
God, a
Chris.
simp. Simp.
You said something profound, one of the best things I heard all night, actually. And I want to acknowledge it. And you stated what you invest in early in life yields the best returns. Is it your position that women should not invest in their families when young?
Okay.
Are those returns not as valuable as serving a corporation or being a boss babe that can get fired when the boss's nephew needs a hobby?
Yeah, so I think what I've pretty clearly advocated for multiple times is that I want women to be able to have the option to do both, right? I've said this numerous times, and increasing technology is allowing that sort of thing, right? When I was talking in that context, that was good.
So her argument is you can have it all because you're a girl. You can have it all. You can have work. You can have a job. You can have a family. You can have it all. She doesn't tell you how to get to it, though. Just tells you can and doesn't tell you how.
That's smart when you're quick at that. What I was actually talking about when I said the word returns was an economic label, right? So you can like switch the definition to a different thing. But I agree that there's a tragedy that's happened where families, not just young women, but young families don't feel like they can invest in children because it's so expensive and they can't be good stewards of their future things. The reason that parents are delaying isn't because they don't think children aren't beautiful. What they're delaying for specifically is because they know that if they don't have a stable economic thing to rear their children in, they're not being good parents. And I think it's a tragedy that you're gonna yell, hold on, don't yell at me yet.
All right,
I think
folks.
that's a tragedy, but actually engage with my words and the ideas that I'm talking about.
All right, we're gonna go to the next question.
Do you?
Thanks, both of you, for coming. Taylor here. To me, it seems modern feminism is antithetical to a biblical worldview. From your earlier debate with Andrew, which I listened to, it appears you keep a fairly sharp separation between your private faith and how you would integrate that with politics, et cetera. My question is this: do you believe the Bible affirms the equal ontological value of men and women while also establishing a specific order of responsibility, God, man, wife, children, for example? If so, isn't this consistent to hold that a society could still follow that biblical order with men as the primary heads of voting, repeal the 19th, public life, primary breadwinner, while fully affirming women's equal value ontologically and encouraging distinct roles? This was the arrangement before the boom of feminism and seemed to sustain a strong society. And why wouldn't that be a good solution, even though it does seem far-fetched?
Okay, do you want to tackle the theological question or the like policy question first? Because there's kind of two baked in there.
Yeah, whichever you address first.
Okay, sure. So when it comes to like a theological question, I think one of the most important things that we need to recognize from the Bible, and most of you are going to disagree with me on this, is that it is not a prescription for statehood. In fact, it's a strong resistance to that, right? Jesus, for example, was quite resistant to being named as the Messiah and King and creating a kingdom of Israel, which is in part why the Jews wanted to kill him. So you might theologically disagree with me, but when I look at these things as far as policy goes, I think God made both of us, right? All people were made in the image of God. And I think that what God wants isn't to make didactic biblical interpretations policy, because that's not what he did, right? To a policy level, it seems to be the case that there is just better benefits overall, broadly for society. There are cons, but there are mostly benefits when you have a policy of allowing your human capital to have opportunity and choice. And I would argue.
Another assertion, just purely assertion. That's all she has. I think, I feel. That's not evidence in a debate. Like, who cares what you feel? I feel the opposite then. There we go. Now let's debate that.
Argue to you, there's a greater Christian imperative than men should be the household, which is choice, because the entire bracket of salvation is about choosing God. So why on earth do humans think that they know better than to try and insist that women can't have simple choices like where they work or whether they get to vote? I think that that's a bastardization of Christianity when we do that.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
This is going to be our last question.
Rachel, if your position...
I'm not saying women can't work. I'm saying don't make employers hire women, because that's what they have done. They have given incentives and things that make it enticing for men to actually have to hire women into their businesses. And that's a fucking nightmare. That's what I'm saying.
Is so attractive and so elusive. Why do you need so many restrictive and regressive policies to maintain it? Because as it stands, your lifestyle would be able to coexist under Kyla's worldview, but Kyla's lifestyle would not be able to coexist under your worldview. And so I just think that if women were not able to do all these things and be able to sustain this lifestyle, you wouldn't need the restrictive policies to stop them. It just wouldn't be possible in the first place.
Can you point to one restrictive policy that I advocated for in this debate?
Would you advocate for the regression of the 19th Amendment?
Yes, but only because universal suffrage.
Okay, well that's
that. It wouldn't be just women can't vote. It would be most people.
Do you think
can't vote.
mothers be able to enter the workforce under your worldview?
They've always been legally allowed
under
to.
your worldview.
Yes, they've always been legally, I've never argued to legally prevent women from working or mothers from working. I think it needs to be the culture. These things come from the culture and the religious values, not from policy. We don't just outlaw things. I've never advocated for restrictive policy changes other than we need to limit suffrage. But that does not just, but that doesn't just limit women's votes. It limits all votes back to what the founders had framed. I think we need to return to a limited suffrage republic if we're going to try to have a republic.
Hi, Kyla. My name's JS. Your counter to feminism having the biggest detriment on birth rates was industrialization or modernization. I'm wondering, can you elaborate on how that makes sense when what I see, industrialization and modernization makes it easier, safer, cheaper to have and raise kids?
That's actually a really interesting question. This is the one thing that's kind of like called the paradox of urbanization, is that you're right. In many ways, we have more technologies, more supports, more welfare available than ever before. But it seems to be the case that as industries and nations modernize, birth rate tends to fall. And we see this across the board of every country that begins to modernize. And that is a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that, which is why what we have to do is go, well, what are ways that we can offset this declining birth rate so that young families feel like they can't afford to have children and then do?
All right.
Yeah, so my question is actually for Rachel. So Rachel, we heard Erudite make a lot of claims, but based on her standard, we can't actually know if anything she said was true. So if we don't have...
Because they're assertions, by the way.
Access to certain truth because she doesn't understand Agrippa's trilemma anyways. From Erudite's view, why ought we actually debate? And since we can't know who is correct, why can we know that Rachel's the one who won this debate anyways?
Well, that's true. I could have, rather than just sticking to demographic doom, I could have just precepted her and said, you don't believe in objective truth anyway, so why are you here?
So here's the thing that it seems like you guys have like never understood. If we want to talk about the Agrippas, right? Are you a methodological skeptic?
What? Say that again?
Are you a methodological skeptic?
Yeah, you worried about the meth, huh? Yeah, you definitely worried about the meth.
Methodological skeptic?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't care about the problem of levying the accusation of Agrippa's trilemma because I just engage with the assumption that sometimes assumptions have to be made. We have to engage.
Oh, so you just want to start with random axioms?
No, not random, just like yours aren't random. What I've done and what you guys seem to not quite understand is I've labeled the thing that you do, what you call presuppositionalism, is levying Agrippa's trilemma against your opponents. All I've done is pointed out that just as your opponents fail Agrippa's, so do we. I just don't care because I'm not a methodological skeptic.
So, but why should we grant your starting or foundational axioms and not mine?
So that we can have a conversation and you can critique it to see if you think it makes
But we're doing it
sense.
arbitrarily based off of nothing but preference.
How do you, again, all you're doing is you're levying the Agrippa's problem to me, but I would say to you, you have the same problem. I just don't care. I don't think it's interesting. I'd rather just contextually grant certain presuppositions and axioms and build from there.
We're just going to go with this.
You asked Rachel about Hypatia. So being an educated philosophy person, could you name one work by Aristotle and one by Hegel?
I don't know works by Hegel.
By the way, if I'd have known that's what she was saying, I would have answered. I couldn't understand her because she just talks like with a
It's the meth. It's definitely the meth.
dry Adderall mouth, and I couldn't understand.
You're like slowing down with your age. It's a little hard to keep up.
No, I'm just like a normal person who's not on speed.
Aristotle would be the 5 dialogues.
That's Plato.
Hello. Hey Jay, are you gonna unblock me yet, or are you just gonna keep running from me forever? And I thought you quit debating, or did you not? I just also want to be clear.
We're gonna jump to the next
I'm
question.
not an expert.
All right.
James, I'm so sorry.
Well, she pretends like she's not on meth. Just outbursts over and over again, tweaking the whole debate. If she's not on meth, then she needs to see a doctor quickly.
Sorry, as we're just gonna turn this into like shitting on Erudite session.
We have to keep it. Let's keep it orderly, folks. And I think this is going to be our last question. Sorry, brother.
Hello, I'm Victoria.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi. First off, you had made the comment that most men in hospice care express that they have a lot of regret about not being in their children's lives enough. I feel like there was a recent study that showed that men currently, I want to say it was like back in the 80s, less than 10% had ever changed a diaper, and now it's over 80%. So I feel like that point is kind of moot for modern times because dads are around more and they are more involved with their children. Excuse me. And then besides that, the main point or the main question was, is feminists doing more harm than good, or more harm or more good? Margaret Sanger, obviously Planned Parenthood, she was a eugenicist. As a black woman in America and a mother with special needs kids, do you feel like modern feminism has truly helped equality for all women or just white women?
I think it's been better for white women because I think when you have intersectional layers of oppression, the reality is that something that benefits just one intersection will benefit the most privileged group of that thing. Is it true that Sanger was a eugenicist? Yeah, I believe most feminists have disavowed that, and I would disavow that, right? I think that that's bad. Does that answer your question, Victoria?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Before we give a huge round of applause, I just have to get these important things out. First is... All right, Andy, you want to come on? All right.
So I just have one question I didn't actually hear an answer to. Can you concisely tell us what you plan to do about demographic collapse? Concisely, not blah, 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 we need this and we need this. Tell us concisely.
How do we
What is
fix it?
Kyla Turner's plan to stop demographic collapse?
Yeah, fix it, fix it, fix it.
It seems
That's
age
it.
is affecting you both. Very simply, tax credits.
Ah.
Tax credits.
Who pays for the tax credits, though? Where does the government get this magic money to pay you to go home and raise your kids for a living, like as a career? Where do they get the money for this?
And Pat leave, making education, making.
All right, we got to give her a chance.
Do you want me to
hold on,
answer?
hold on. We got to give her a chance to actually talk. Go ahead.
Tax credits, making educational reform so you can go into careers faster, making it so it's cheaper to have babies, making it affordable to raise children and have dual income households where a woman works at home. Simple stuff like that.
All right.
Just give her.
So create money so that the government can make all the problems go away. Just pay them to go fucking make babies, right? I want to sign up for that. I will gladly get paid by the government to go fuck women and make babies. Just tell me where to apply, because I will do this for the betterment of the world, right? But those jobs don't exist. That's silly talk.
I do want to just hold on one second. Okay, before we hold on one sec. Hold on, bear with me. Before we do a huge round of applause, just a couple quick housekeeping things. First is if you have a signed emblem page, which if you saw that when you got your ticket, which is if you bought it probably earlier than May 12th or so, at 6:40, come out there. We'll get it for you. And then also 6:40 is when the meet and greets are. So be at one of those places, depending on what ticket type you have.
I think we're done.
Also, Brand.
Yeah, I think that's the end of this one. Very, very frustrating. Like, I cannot get through a fucking erudite fucking debate without a migraine every single time. It just reminds me of trying to argue with my 12-year-old daughter. That's what it seems so much like. Because they have big ideas, but they don't have any way to get those big ideas to come true. Like, just pay them money. Get the government to pay them to go have kids. Where do they get the money to give to them for that? Do you think that's just sitting in an account? It's just silly woman talk. Make your employers pay you to go fucking home and just be at home with your kids. Yeah, that's not fucking realistic. There's not a lot of jobs that are going to just say, hey, we're going to pay you to stay home. That's not how business works. And you could see in this debate, the popsicles and like candy canes in this girl's head. Like, these don't make any sense. And I don't understand how we let these people still get these big debates whenever they just shit the bed so fucking bad. Like, she rubbed her ass in that shit. But she still gets to be on the big debates. So I guess I'm going to get more migraines in the future. I'm reviewing them. Anyway, I want to get y'all out of here because I got some shit to do today. But Wednesday, I should be back for another live show, unless I get like too many backed up. I've got like quite a few backed up right now. So I might have to put another one maybe next week. So look for a live show Wednesday and Friday. And Friday, I'm also looking hopefully to be doing the Andrew Wilson versus Candace Owens debate. Like, so I might do that one later in the day if I have to do it live, because I'm waiting for that one. It'll be a live reaction, so you can see it all up front. I can't have known beforehand because they're doing it right in there live. So hopefully that's what we're going to do. I've got to find a time for Friday because that's the day they're supposed to debate. So tune back in for that. And also, if you're still here, please subscribe. Whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Twitter, Rumble, X, or TikTok. Not a TikTok, you're not on there. But if you're on any of those, please subscribe. I'm definitely shadow banned on YouTube. I have 700 and something subscribers, and I had 3 watching today. And in Rumble, I have 47 subscribers, and I had 11 watching. So they're definitely not putting it out there. So please, if you want to see this channel continue, please just throw a subscription up, and I won't ask you for anything else. So let me get y'all out of here, and I will see y'all on Wednesday. Peace.